Snuck up on me there. How are we all doing? And welcome to the THC show. This is a show where we talk about truth, hope, and change. We find some of the truths in our world that we're not very happy with. We look for some hope in solving those issues and try to find some mechanisms for change as well. Happy to have on the show today, as always, 8 out of 10 Glenn from CannaMatch.ca is going to join me for the 420 moment. 420 session, because the moment is dedicated to Martin and the Martin Medical Moment, and Jerry Martin will be here to join me for that as well. And my guest today is the odd man from the woods, the Potsquatch, is going to help us find out about how to grow our plants and provide for ourselves, and a bunch of other stuff that he can fill us in on about his history and things like that. So I'm very happy about that. What I wanted to talk about on the show to get off the top here today was legalization of cannabis. We asked for legalization. That's what we demanded, with the Bob Marley's singing the song about it and all of us preaching it. And we asked for legalize and regulate. We just wanted to be part of the mainstream. We didn't want to be criminals anymore, and there was no reason to do that. And that's what we talked about when we were demanding legalization, is all the reasons why there was no justification for prohibition, and we should have legalization. And what it is and what it was supposed to be are two completely different things. What we were talking about was the end of wasting our tax dollars, for one thing. The stigmatization of calling people criminals was another thing. The ridiculous price of cannabis because of prohibition was another thing. And legalization was supposed to bring us resolve to all of these issues. We were going to stop criminalizing people and calling them criminals for a choice of substance to use in a world with alcohol and commercial tobacco killing millions of people. And yet it's the pot users that were stigmatized by the mainstream society as the dopes. And that was completely wrong. Most of our high-achieving people in the world use cannabis, and it's a creative tool, and it's a smarter alternative to alcohol and cigarettes and many pharmaceuticals. So it was supposed to stop that stigmatization and the criminalization and all the reefer madness that was going on. Legalization was supposed to bring the price way down, like where it should be for a vegetable or a medicinal herb, none of which in the marketplace gain more than $10 a pound for the farmers that dedicate their property to growing that and bringing that to market to feed their families with. And the only reason that cannabis was $10 a gram was because of prohibition, because the people selling it were looking at jail time if they got caught and maybe losing their properties or other things that would happen. And it was the risk involved. And even when we had dispensaries, the cost was still way up there because the dispensaries were illegal and they all had to put aside money for legal fees, which turned out to be a very real concern. And so the prices were supposed to come way, way down. We're not even talking in terms of grams anymore. What do we talk in terms of grams with any other fruit or vegetable or medicinal herb or plant or anything out there? You never talk in terms of grams. It's always in pounds, and it's never more than $10 a pound. And I recognize that growing cannabis, especially indoor, incurs a lot more costs than other things would, although people do grow heirloom tomatoes and orchids and other things indoors, and they're not getting more than $10 a pound for that stuff. But in the case of cannabis, there's a little more care that has to be taken. There's certainly some effort involved in the curing process. There's money that's spent on trimming and other things to bring to market what is the acceptable state of a bud, if you will. But it shouldn't be up in the dollars per gram area at all. It should be, if anything, down in the dollars per ounces, and maybe we should still even be talking about pounds. But that's what legalization was supposed to bring us. But we didn't get the legalization that we asked for. The people that we're asking and begging and pleading for legalization from were our governments, but really it was the corporations that were supporting those governments and dictating to those governments what policies they would have with respect to cannabis, because cannabis is a serious threat to the bottom line profits of a lot of different corporations where cannabis would compete with what they have that they have patents on in ways that they didn't want to deal with. And there's been a lot of money spent by these corporations to try to keep cannabis illegal and to keep their products in the marketplace at inflated prices that they wouldn't be able to get if they were having to compete with cannabis. So the extreme overregulation of cannabis is not something that we asked for, is not something that's warranted or justified. Cannabis, according to DEA Judge Francis Young in 1989, he declared that cannabis was the safest therapeutically active compound found in nature. And it is. You can overdose on just about anything that you find in the grocery store, in the produce aisle, in the drugstore. All of those things have LD50 levels, ratings. An LD50 rating is a lethal dose at 50% for an average-sized human being. And everything in the grocery store, everything in the drugstore, every plant around your house has an LD50 rating that is achievable without too much effort. If you want to eat a dozen tomatoes or drink 24 liters of water or the other things that will kill half of the average people that would consume that amount in a short period of time. Whereas cannabis has an LD50 level of 1,500 in 10 minutes. So if you can consume 1,500 pounds of cannabis in 10 minutes, they think that that would kill half of the average humans that did that, although that's never been proven because nobody's ever died from cannabis. So here we are with one of the safest things in the marketplace as far as any danger to anybody goes. Even in its concentrated form, the worst that's going to happen is you're going to green out, and you'll be fine afterwards, unless you bump your head on the sidewalk when you green out. But it's as safe as anything out there, and we could get into how dangerous alcohol is and pesticides and fertilizers. And I mean, a 12-year-old can go and buy gasoline from the gas station and bring it home in a container, and who knows what they want to do with that. I mean, kids sniff gasoline. Maybe we should prohibit that. So it shouldn't have been prohibited in the first place. There's no justification for it. It shouldn't be overregulated the way it is now. The packaging is ridiculous. I mean, what kind of packaging do you have for the celery and the tomatoes and the stuff that you buy in the grocery store? I mean, they give you a plastic bag for it, and that's all that we should have for cannabis as well. The single-use hard plastic that they're using is just an abomination to our concerns over our carbon footprint and what we're doing in our planet or on our planet here. So the other thing that it wasn't supposed to do is it wasn't supposed to wipe out the medical side of cannabis and access to medical cannabis through medical dispensaries. And yet that's the result of this so-called legalization. In British Columbia here, they've put together the Community Safety Unit because they wanted to name it something that would piss us right off and that didn't mean anything about what it was actually doing, because it certainly doesn't make our communities safer to take dispensaries out. It only makes it safer for government cannabis stores to operate there with respect to their bottom line. But certainly the communities are no safer having their dispensaries taken away from them. And in fact, many people are put at great risk because of that. And with an opioid crisis, where cannabis, especially in the form of high-dose edibles, is able to get people off of opioids and replace their opioid use and replace their risk of death, taking out medical dispensaries is akin to murder in my books, and there's no justification for doing that, except that they're running a protection racket for the government monopolies of this cannabis retail distribution that they've put in place, whose sole purpose was to take over the market that was already entrenched and vibrant and working very, very well for all the time before it. This was another move by those evil fucking bastards, excuse my language, but they deserve it, who we've been fighting against for forever to get rights as human beings to access nature's best plant, and they're only doing it to protect their profits. These greedy assholes are the ones we've been fighting forever, begging for our rights to be free and use cannabis instead of what they want us to use, and they're the same ones that are giving us permission to use the cannabis that they will sell us, and still using our tax dollars to come after those people that would grow and produce and distribute outside of the government system. And it's an absolute travesty. It's abhorrent. I'm outraged by it, as you can tell, and it's hurting people and it's killing people, and it needs to stop. There should be no penalties with respect to people having anything to do with cannabis. There should be no limits on how many plants a person can grow. We're supposed to be free people. This is supposed to be a free country. We're supposed to have public servants. What the hell are our public servants doing, telling us how much cannabis we can grow? Do they tell you how many dandelions you can have in your front yard? Because that's more dangerous to the community than any cannabis plant that you could ever grow, or a garden full of cannabis plants you could ever grow. They don't have the right to tell us this. They're outside of their purview as public servants. They are abusing their power. They are in contempt of us, the populace. They're criminally misusing our public funds to run a protection racket for their government cannabis stores and the insiders who want to make billions of dollars off of people by maintaining post-prohibition prices or pre-prohibition prices on a post-prohibition world. It's why I'm here, right? So Legalization is still what we're fighting for, and we want proper legalization. We want all this over-regulation to end. We want the government monopolies to end. If people need a license to sell in the public marketplace, that's fine, but that license should be easier to obtain than just about any other license, and anybody should be able to get a license to be able to grow cannabis, and you don't need a license to grow unless you're going to sell cannabis, and we don't need any government figures poking their heads into our lives to see how many plants we got in our closets, in our bedroom, in our basements. Get the hell out of our houses. Leave us alone. Unless we're hurting somebody else, stay out of our lives. That's the role of public servants. To be seen the goods that they do for us and not be heard from until there's a need for it, unless there's a warning that's of merit to give us. But to ask us what we're doing, to interfere with us because we're competing with other people that don't want the competition, that have the government's ear because they have their pocketbook, this is corruption. This is high-level corruption, and it's going on all around us. And we need to be able to figure that out. And we can figure it out every time they move when it comes to cannabis. It is the best example going of how corrupt our government is. This is a plant not any more expensive to grow and produce than most other plants like heirloom tomatoes and orchids and other things like that, only fetching huge dollars because of government corruption. And over-regulation is only because of government corruption. Limited licenses, limited ability to grow. They only want you to grow 4 plants because they want to make sure that most people won't bother to grow 4 plants, and everybody's going to have to go and buy it off of them. They're doing other things too. It is extremely corrupt. I went to try to open a bank account today at the one credit union that we were told was friendly to places that would have businesses to do with cannabis, and got told that for the past week they've been shutting down all of those accounts because the regulators got wise to them, and now they're not able to help people access banking services to do with businesses that are outside of the government cannabis system. The place that I'm at, Cannabis Culture, has a store that sells all sorts of different things, rolling papers and shirts and many other things. And there's one main supplier that they have. That main supplier is now no longer allowed to sell to anything but the government stores. So rolling papers and things like that are becoming hard to order for Cannabis Culture and other places that aren't government stores. This is all part of the big squeeze using technology against us, but all of it is just running a protection racket. It's just because the government is corrupt. It's just because they don't want to have free market competition with respect to cannabis, because people are used to paying high prices and they still rub their little hands together thinking they can get those high prices and they're going to rake in billions of dollars. And it's all on the backs of us, on the backs of the citizens here who deserve to have cannabis freely available to us, or at least accessible for very, very reasonable prices. And that's certainly not what we've got going on here. The other thing is that there needs to be an apology. I talked about that in one of my previous shows. That they were wrong and we were right. There's no justification for limiting the access to cannabis. It's not dangerous like alcohol is at all. It's not killing people like commercial cigarettes are killing people. In fact, it's medicine. It helps people sleep. It helps them with their pain. It helps people get off of opioids. Why the hell would we have to pay high prices for that? Why the hell wouldn't that be made quickly and easily available to everybody by our public servants? The people we pay to make life easy for us, to warn us about dangers, and to make it so that we can drive safely through our world and navigate safely through our world. They should be making sure that people have cannabis to help them navigate through the world. This is a plant that helps everybody. They should be up on the rooftop screaming it out loud. Hey, there's a great plant out there. As your public servant being paid by you, we're going to help you get it. We're going to make sure everybody that can't afford to get it gets it for free. We're going to make sure all the sick people that are using it for health reasons get it for free. But that's not what they're doing. They're trying to pretend that they don't really understand that it's medicine, that it's helping all of these people. They're trying to pretend that they don't understand that what they did was really wrong, that using the criminal law against people to try to prevent them from accessing a plant just because it's interfering with the profits of their friends is a very evil and corrupt thing to do. And it shouldn't be still happening in this world. And we as people need to demand that it stops happening. It's our role to stop that. Each of us individuals has a role to play here. None of us are crew, or none of us are passengers on a plane going somewhere. We're all crew here. We all got a job to do. And one of our main jobs is to protect freedom. Freedom is the most important thing that we have going for us. Because if you're not free, then you don't behave like someone who's free. Then you start doing all kinds of things to make it so you are free. You do things to prove that you're free. That's what it's like growing up. You find out from your parents you're not allowed to do certain things. So then you do them on purpose because that's what you need to do to be free. And that's what we're all doing. And so when the government comes in and says, oh, you can't use this or you can't use that, that's what people are going to use just because the government says that. And then when it comes to stuff like opioids and street drugs and those kind of things, people are sticking needles in their arms going, fuck you, I'll do what I want. And that's simply because of prohibition. Many people get caught up in prohibition. Many young people get caught up in using substances just to say, fuck you, I'll do what I want, stop telling me what I can't do. It's not the role of public servants to tell us what we can and cannot do. It's their role to warn us about things and be honest and tell the truth about things. But it's certainly not their role to lie to us, to protect the interests of the people that help them get elected. And that's why I'm here talking about corruption, because that's what's going on here. And that's why we're dealing with cannabis the way that we are, with illegal cannabis and legal cannabis. And the legal cannabis is no good. And the illegal cannabis is still so expensive because of prohibition. And all the rest of this garbage is just because of government corruption, and it needs to stop, and we're the ones who have to stop it. We're the ones who have to figure out what our little niche is, where we can throw a wrench in the gears of these people, we can have some fun screwing with them, and demand that they respect us as free, independent, sovereign, autonomous human beings, and stop interfering with us in ways that are causing so much harm and damage as drug prohibition is. And stop wasting our tax dollars to protect the interests of corporations, and start standing up to those corporations and protecting the people who are paying them to be protected. Us. There's a couple of stories in the news today, and they kind of tie in a little bit. Apparently Big Pharma is concerned because their profit share is dropping. And, good on them because their profit share is way too high anyway. But there's some studies that have been done that show that there's been quite a drop in prescriptions, especially in states that have medical cannabis programs. So that's good. Another thing on the other end of that spectrum is that there's a study that's recently been released on twins. Where one twin had consumed cannabis for, in large amounts and others had not. And finds that there's no lowering of IQ associated with consuming cannabis. But we all knew that anyway. Cannabis helps you get more sleep when you need it. It helps you relax when you need it. It helps you find humor when you need it. It helps you focus on things that you find interesting. It's at the root of a lot of the creative people's process. So we already knew that, but it's good to have a study come out, because there was another study in 2012 that came out and said that people aged 13 to 17 were lowering their IQs by using cannabis. But it turns out that that study's had some light shone on it, and they weren't taking into account a whole bunch of factors that were going on with those kids, such as dropping out of school and problems in their families and other things like that were contributing to the low IQ. So the environment, when that's taken into account, it shows that the cannabis use does not lower the IQ of people. And like I say, we all knew that anyway. U.S. alcohol is declining rapidly, as is the consumption of beer in Canada. And I say that ties into what I'm talking about, because these are groups that have been making a lot of money off of people that are now feeling a little bit of a dent in their operations, because cannabis is a wiser choice for people, and a lot of people are choosing cannabis. A lot of older people are choosing cannabis, and a lot of people are choosing cannabis for a lot of other good reasons. There we go, the 419 warning. So we got one more minute, and get them rolled if you don't have them rolled, and get ready if you do. One other story that caught my attention, and that is that Nigerians are consuming $15 billion worth of cannabis per year, or spending $15 billion to consume cannabis per year, which is the highest in the world. Good on them. There's 20 million Nigerians that admit to using cannabis. That's a pretty high number there. And and actually Africa has 3 out of the top 10 cannabis consuming countries in Africa. So it's very important that we include Africa in our pursuit of the truth and our pursuit of freedom. So I think that pretty much gets us awful close there. What else did I want to say there? There was drinking rates are down, as I said, 9% overall in the United States and 11% in states with medical cannabis dispensaries, or with adult use as well, because there's a lot of states that have adult use. And so now we're at 420. It is 420. Happy 420. And Glenn is with me as always. Happy 420, Glenn.
Happy 420, Neil.
How are you today?
Good. Happy 420, everybody. It's 420!
Light them if you got them. I got one here. I'm going to put this on too.
There you go.
Because
and somebody just said here, TJ Patient said that CannaMatch has found him 2 wives already.
Wow, and you can only have 7, so he's well on his way.
Well, it's like there was a good success story for CannaMatch right there. Thank you very much, TJ Patient, for sharing that today.
Yeah, you can find your Canna buddies on CannaMatch.ca. I'm wearing the Canucks colors again because they're still in first place. They knocked off the defending Stanley Cup champions last night in a great game.
That was a good game.
Fun times to be a Canuck.
Too bad it was blocked out.
And I have a lot of activist friends that don't follow sports. And I know that there's a little bit of a stigma about people who follow sports that are activists because, it's really a diversion in a world where our world's on fire if we really pay attention to it. I mean, there's people dying right now today because, things are wrong. And, but there needs to be balance.
Yes.
We live in a yin and yang universe, and there needs to be balance. And as an activist, I saw that in my early years. I saw other activists come and go, people that would get very passionate and then burn out. And so that there needs to be a balance. And for me, the distraction has been hockey. It's been part of my life all my life. So
my distraction has been my little girl lately.
Nice. Yeah, well, kids were mine for a while too. Thankfully, my son played a little bit of hockey. I coached hockey. He was on the bench with me when I was coaching hockey, and so it was also a family thing for me. But, hockey's been part of my life forever. And, that is yours anyhow.
Thank you very much, sir.
Oh, that's very tasty. Glenn.
That's the Wedding Crasher and some Mango Shatter.
The Wedding Crasher?
Yeah, the dark one right there.
That's this right here.
That's one there.
I'd take the lid off and let you smell it, but we don't have smell-o-vision here.
Yeah.
CKNW had that only once back in the 80s. They just tried it for one day. I believe it was April 1st.
April 1st.
April 1st one time they had.
Wow. Okay. April 1st.
Smell audio or something.
Gotcha, yeah. So that's like we're going to have a smell-o-vision on February the 30th next year, right here on this show, right? Because there's no February 30th.
Oh, there you go. Wow. Yeah. It wasn't your fault you couldn't keep your promise, I guess.
Yeah, I know.
So did you watch the All-Star game?
Yep, a bit of it.
That was the second great All-Star game for Vancouver fans. Brock Besser won Most Valuable Player as a rookie last year. But this year?
The guy with the wooden stick still shot 100 miles an hour.
I didn't notice that.
You didn't see that?
No.
Yeah, one of the older guys that used to always play, he came out with a hockey stick.
Al McInnes.
Yes.
I did see it. I just didn't realize he was using a wooden stick, but I knew he was using
a wooden stick and still broke 100. I think it was 100.6.
I didn't think they should have had Bobby Hull up there trying to hit the target. I mean, what the hell are they doing that for? That's embarrassing.
Oh, wow. It's Bobby Hull.
He takes it in stride, whatever it is. But,
I'm sure.
I just didn't think that was very fair to him.
I'm sure Bobby thought it was embarrassing. He probably wouldn't have been there, right?
Well, I think he thought he was going to hit the target.
He's not the Bobby Hull, but from then, he's the Bobby Hull now.
Yeah. Bobby, you're 60 years old. Come on.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
But what a great game for the Canucks.
With
Quinn Hughes and Elias Peterson and Jacob Markstrom, they were dynamite.
And the 3-on-3 was good.
I'm a bit of a traditionalist. I don't necessarily like to see that, but it is fun to watch for sure. It does highlight the skill for sure. It's just a different game than, I don't know that you can really call it hockey. You can, but anyway, I'm not knocking that.
I think it's like your neighborhood hockey. You got a goalie and a couple of your friends.
Or some of the beer leagues where nobody shows up.
Going against other, stuff like that. So you're like your neighborhood.
I played beer league. Well, not beer league.
Yeah.
But pickup hockey where there's only 5 guys that show up and there's 2 of them sitting on the bench all the time. That's what it was great though. It was really great. But for the Canucks, they were down 2-0 early in that final game. 2 10-minute periods that they play of 3-on-3. And down 2-0. Then they were down 3-1 with like 5 minutes to go or something like that. They came back. Peterson got the second goal when they were down 3-1. He got the one to make it 3-2. That was a big goal. Then he got another one to make it 4-4. And then they scored right away after that to make it 5-4, and then held on for the 5-4 win, which was pretty cool to see, too.
They get $1 million to split,
$1 million to split 10 ways. 10 players split
$100,000 each.
$100,000 a piece.
Wow.
I'd never seen a better game than this
really
last
good.
one. They were really working it. They wanted to win. You know?
Yeah, that's good.
And the Pacific Division, you know,
Yeah.
it's the lesser of the divisions,
Gary
right?
Bettman's been trying to get things to go, you know, a little bit more exciting. So I think you've maybe found a good format.
I was excited.
Yeah.
I liked it. Quinn Hughes was amazing. I think he must have had a goal and 4 assists or something like that.
Yeah.
I couldn't find the summary. I was looking for it, but I couldn't find a summary of who got how many points. I know Hurdle got 5 goals.
Oh, wow.
But Pacioretty, no, not Pacioretty, Pasternak won the most valuable player. He had 4 goals. It was fun except for the goalies. They don't have fun.
And then 4 goalies, right? Because they swap out, right? Because I know Markstrom
only
started
4?
the first game,
Yeah, it was only
and then
4.
the other. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, 4 goalies.
There you go. That wedding crusher or crasher. I keep calling it crusher. It should be crusher because it keeps crushing me.
Anything new in your world?
No, well, just TJ Payson found 2 wives. No, not much. That was exciting for the day.
We want to know more about that.
Yeah.
Both at the same time, or what was wrong with the first one?
Yeah, maybe he just got rid of them really quick. I don't know.
I'm going to get these guys over here.
Yeah.
Now I'm high again.
Here's another one.
Every time I do this, I think about the contest.
Yeah.
And because that's how I feel. I feel like I've gone from being fairly sober to, to a little high.
Yeah.
Which is good.
That's good.
That's good. I'm sure it's good.
Makes the show go better.
We've had some interesting ways to show that cannabis doesn't impair.
Yes.
And it doesn't harm.
Yep.
Were you there for the great hot box thing that they had? That was fun, wasn't it?
That was
I thought you were there.
Mega
Ill.
Mega
Ill, the
yes,
cannabis-infused
with
pizza
Mark.
joint up on Kingsway.
Mark Lokeed.
Mark Lokeed.
Yeah,
Shout out to Mark. I don't know how you're doing, Mark.
Yeah, I have a video of me being there, not just the YouTube video.
Right.
Too. Yes.
Well,
actually, Isabel's mom was with me there.
I see. The video would have been pretty smoky.
Oh, yes. Yes. She couldn't make it
What
through.
did they do? They did
They made
200 plus grams of all kinds of shatter and oils and stuff.
all on those
Put onto
boarding
the hot coals.
Those coals, yes.
After sealing up, and I was part of that, sealing up the doors and windows, duct tape.
Oh, that was
Everybody
really,
in, nobody else getting in, nobody's getting out.
No, that was something.
That was pretty good.
You can look that up on YouTube as the world's largest hot box.
Yeah.
And
Somebody's got to do 420 grams at some point. And then somebody will have to do
Let's do it.
710.
Okay, so when I win my case, what I got going on, we'll do that. 420
We'll invite a whole bunch of med users down.
Yeah.
And,
We'll do all in here.
In here? We could do it in here. This room has been hotboxed a number of times.
We can really hotbox this room, yeah. And Neil's over there smiling, I want to be part of that show.
There's probably resin on the walls.
That's why they painted it black.
I'm sure there's resin up there. That ceiling's looking a little green.
Well, sir.
There was one time at a 420. It wasn't me.
Yeah.
I wasn't part of deciding this. In fact, I didn't think it was a good idea, and I had been part of talking 420 organizers out of it in the years before. Mm-hmm. But they decided to have a who can take the biggest dab contest.
Oh yeah.
And to prove that you can smoke huge amounts of cannabis and it won't kill you.
Yeah.
The guy that I guess he won.
I actually do that on Tuesdays because I do triple dab Tuesdays.
Do you?
Yeah, so I do.
Yeah, but you only do it with professionals, right?
Well, no, I mean, like at home on my couch.
You don't like invite people in off the street that you don't know.
No, it's just me. So
this was 420. This was like, hey, anybody on the audience want to come and do a big dab?
Oh, well, there's always people out there that think they can do a big dab.
Well, I know.
Yeah,
but, so it turned out one guy greened out.
Yeah.
Greened out harshly. And... but everybody else was okay, and everybody else, pulled it off. And then, but the one guy he did like collapse, and they had to get a stretcher up there. It was a bad scene, and they shouldn't have done that, right?
Wow.
Turned out the guy had been high on speed for 3 days straight before he got up on stage there. Just jumped up on stage. Yeah, man, give me a big hit of that,
So he was like up here, and then boom. Wow. Boom, that was it, yeah. Oh,
so we shouldn't do stuff like that.
But now he knows what can bring him down.
But, we throw out joints. We throw out pounds and pounds of joints. Been there. For the last number of years, it's been pretty good weed that's going out there in those joints.
The only thing I have a problem with that is that there's a lot of people that are disabled, like me, and they tell you to sit down. Yeah. Now, with me with scoliosis, if I sit down on that ground, I'm not going to be able to get back up. I might get trampled.
You don't have to sit down when we tell you have to sit down.
Oh, you don't have to?
That's the secret.
Oh, that's the secret.
We tell everybody to sit down.
We just told everybody.
But we're still going to do it even if a few people are standing up.
Okay.
And there's
So
always a few people standing up.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always felt
we
bad
should be a little more clear. But
the
if
people behind me were sitting down, being good, and I'm saying no, I'm not going to stand.
You just got to tell the people right around you, hey man, I just can't sit.
Yeah.
And then they're good. We don't want to put it out there too much when we do that. We might not do that anymore, by the way.
Oh really?
I'm going to have a serious talk with our organizers this year.
Nobody's ever got hurt.
Last year it was, well, that nobody's ever been hurt in that is a bit of a miracle, really.
Wow.
Going out into such cram-packed crowds, throwing out weed to people, oh man,
we got more space at the beach
we're
now.
We're nervous every time we do it. We're nervous every time we do a 420 anyway because there's so many people that are there.
Yeah.
But that particular point of 420, the climax of 420, it could be dangerous. And the last time at the beach there, we had trouble getting the girls back up. Not just the girls, but we had trouble getting back up on stage.
So we need another way of
passing out. The crowd was standing up and collapsing around us quicker than.
What about having rows and have maybe girls at each row and they could pass joints until it meets the middle?
We're going to do a joint toss.
Yeah,
we're absolutely going to do a joint toss.
All right.
I just don't know that we're going to be walking out into the crowd the way we have for the last 25 years anymore.
Yeah, it's getting dangerous.
I think it's got to the point where we're going to have to stay up on the stage and throw it out from the stage.
But
and I know it doesn't get as far back to the other side, and I know that's still a crush down there, but we're going to talk about it anyway.
Somebody in the middle that can throw that backwards too to stop the crush. Maybe.
It is one of our bigger tasks this year as organizers is to figure out how to redo that in a way that makes more sense.
Oh wow!
Because, it's been it was always nerve wracking, and now the last few years have been really nerve wracking. That is a very intense crowd.
Yeah. Oh wow! You know what? Maybe like a drone with a net below it, and you can open up the net, and the joints will fall over the people.
Are you allowed to? I don't think you're allowed to fly drones over people.
Well, you just can't go in a certain airplane space, but of course you can.
Well, I think if there's a large crowd, I think you have to be like on the side of them. I don't know the actual rules.
How do they get concert videos?
I don't think you can do a beach. I don't think you're allowed to fly your drones on the beach
or
in public parks or things like that.
But that would be a safer way. Just drop.
I think that they can make drones probably that are light enough that they wouldn't hurt anybody coming down. That's their fear.
No, I'm just.
That's their fear is that the drone is going to lose power and come down and hit somebody. And in a crowd of people, your chances of hitting somebody are pretty good.
We're throwing out joints for what, 10 minutes? There's no drone that's going to die down in 10 minutes.
That's their fear.
That's their fear.
This is Canada. Remember that.
Canada,
Where any fear becomes a regulation. Every fear becomes a regulation.
But drones would work a pretty safe way, I would think. Yeah.
But, we'll have to figure out something else. We do want to continue the joint toss, and that was my purpose in bringing that up, was that we demonstrate by doing these things just how safe it is and how we don't have to worry about these things. If we were throwing out Mickeys of hard liquor,
it'd be a worst case. Definitely be a crush coming forward. Yeah.
Well, Glenn, that was another great session.
Yes, thank you very much, sir.
I appreciate you coming all the way here to share this with us.
I appreciate you having me on fun. Every week. We'll be back.
A lot of fun.
Thank you very much.
All right.
We'll see you later.
Have as much fun as you can. We'll see you later. Thanks. Cannabis is safe. There's no reason for the criminal law to be used against people that would like to use or sell or grow cannabis. No justification whatsoever. Of all the things out there, this is one of the safest and most fun things you can use. It's also one of the most beneficial things that you can use, which also makes it equally or 100 times more ludicrous that they'd be using the criminal law against people that have possession of this or grow this or distribute this. Because cannabis is a really seriously good medicine for people. It really helps people with their anxiety. It helps people sleep. It helps people with their pain. It helps with so many different things. And it's been medicine for thousands of years throughout many different cultures. Here, even in North America, it was the second most prescribed medicine until about the 1800s. And so what happened is that corrupt governments or governments corrupted by greedy forces that wanted to protect substitute industries for cannabis conspired together, demonized it, created a narrative of it driving people completely insane to begin with and violent. And then when that didn't fly in the 60s, they introduced another narrative of how it made people stupid and stoned and lazy. And none of that was true. And all of it is, the real truth is that it's a real powerfully good medicine for people that you can grow for yourselves. And the pharmaceutical companies have spent a lot of money to try to keep that from the public and to try to demonize cannabis and not let people understand that you can really grow a plant that'll help you with so many different things that you're otherwise taking toxic pills for. So in that fight to find the truth and gain our rights, medical dispensaries opened up. And many of them opened up. They opened up here in Vancouver, and the first one was over 20 years ago. But then several years ago, there was a real proliferation, and we had over 150 medical dispensaries. And then the government decided that, we were all right and they were wrong, and they were going to legalize cannabis for everyone. Trudeau said, I'm going to not just legalize medical cannabis, I'm going to legalize cannabis for all adults. And it turned out to be a real sham and a scam, an attempt to take over and monopolize an already existing industry. But worse than that, it resulted in the shutting down of all of these medical dispensaries. And so many people are now suffering with lack of access. It's the biggest thing on our radar as activists with respect to the cannabis file is the shutting down of access to medical cannabis. So in that fight and in the shutting down of those places, there was a fellow in Saskatchewan that had a dispensary there that he'd been operating for a few years. And they gave him a notice from Health Canada to stop doing that, but you can't stop doing that when you're running a medical dispensary in a small town and these neighbors and friends of yours are using you to access what is helping them live their lives. You can't say no to that. You're going to say no to a corrupt government that's telling you to do that, just like you've been saying no to the criminal code and the policies of the federal government for all the time you've been open as a dispensary. So one more letter is not going to shut you down. And that's what happened with Jerry Martin and his dispensary in Whitewood, Saskatchewan, is the RCMP showed up one day and took him away in handcuffs and seized all of his property and things. And now, that was over 3 years ago, and Jerry's been living with the threat of jail time over his head, with the loss of all of his belongings, and with being labeled a criminal and unable to continue to help people the way that he was. And it's been a horrible plight for anybody to face. Jerry in particular is an emotional guy, and it's been hard on him. And on this show, we're following his case and the other cases across Canada where we're bringing this to the courts. And I'm very happy that Jerry joins me for this segment. And we'll see what there is to update today. It's been a bit of a lapse in things going on. We're waiting for some things to happen. But I'm really happy to have Jerry join me in studio every week and talk a bit about his case and some of the other cases going on. And without any further ado, Jerry's in here with us. There you are. Hi, Jerry.
Hey, how you doing, Neil?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Good.
I haven't accidentally dosed myself on mushrooms since I saw you last.
That's good, man. I won't give you any more.
Somebody said to me, if you hadn't have done that, like I mistakenly took a mushroom-infused chocolate that I ate in the middle of the night in the dark, thinking it was just a wrapped chocolate, and had quite a trip throughout the night. But somebody said to me, if that hadn't happened, you probably wouldn't have eaten that chocolate for months or a long time.
Sure,
and they're right.
For sure.
I don't usually find space in my life where I feel like I can take a little trip.
I hear you.
But it was good. So, with your case, it's still the same, yes?
I'm pretty sure I'm getting that new crown. I think Robin's out, which is a bonus. So
one crown took his money and going away.
My lawyer said on the phone he's just got a clear personal...
Another prosecutor's in on the gravy train now. He's going to start billing hours.
That guy.
And but you're awaiting notification from them as to when they're going to have another court date?
Yeah, so Pat messaged me today, wanted me to mention his court case is coming up.
He's going to come on the show here.
He did message you. Okay,
next
he messaged
week,
me and said he wanted on it and talk to you.
You'll be sitting next to Pat next week.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, so
cool.
He wanted to mention that his case is coming up there. So we're just waiting on his case to be moved to high court.
I see.
And then the three of us will join our cases.
Right.
And hopefully...
So we're at least months away yet.
Oh, God, no. Yeah. It could be a while.
Oh, man. There are some other cases happening. Heidi Chartrand in Halifax there. She has an appearance coming up on Thursday. But she's been given the particulars from the Enns case. She's going to request some time to digest that from her. Judge she was in on Thursday, so probably that'll just be another adjournment. Sarah McNeil and Sean they're still waiting in Red Deer for February final arguments,
Coming
I
up,
think.
yeah, pretty
coming
quick.
up, but nothing yet. Bob Woolsey also is. has got
Bob's
something
back
going.
at it again. Yeah,
So in
he's
May,
stubborn.
yeah, in May he's going back. I'm going to try to have him on the show as
Yeah.
well.
Oh yeah.
And so
I was
yeah,
at his case there. Yeah, and they jacked him. They just jacked him right in the courtroom. Some stupid law. Yeah.
stupid is right.
Yeah.
It's,
yeah.
it's
But good
so.
on him.
I got to reiterate.
a $250 fine for each charge, which I believe they took out of the money that they took from, and he still said, "Fuck you." I don't, and he's taking it back to court. So that's awesome.
Well, good on him.
Yeah.
We got to stand up against these people.
Yeah.
There was a guy recently pulled out a joint in the courtroom and sparked it up. I think it was in Washington.
Yeah, I've seen that there.
You see that there? Yeah, they jumped on him pretty quick and hauled him away, and now he's in custody.
Yeah. And famous.
Wow. I mean, his point is
Yeah.
what does this hurt?
That's good.
Who is this
man.
hurting? There's
Yeah.
some vapors in the air.
Yeah.
You may or may not like the smell. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
You may not like my aftershave either, right?
Yeah.
But really, who is it hurting? Where is the victim? They think that it's okay, these public servants, to physically assault the public.
Yeah. Oh, they do. Yeah.
When the public hasn't physically assaulted anybody, I get the point. I get the point of why that was done.
Yeah, the
But,
policing's been lost along the years. It's just military.
We've lost sight of so
Military,
much about
corporatized.
who's supposed to be in charge here and what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
They're tricky, these bastards,
It's a shame.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
It's a shame that we have to fight our own governments in the courtroom. They're spending our money to fight us, to keep us from getting access to something that we
Enormous
want.
amounts of money.
They're
too.
supposed to listen to what we want and give it to us. They're not supposed to listen to what we want and then fight us over it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they use the excuse that we elected them.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. They're using
We
this
only get so many choices.
extremely flawed system against us.
Yeah.
No limits, eh? What kind of a dumb
We'll go
system
for
is
Prime
that?
Minister next year. How much does that cost? Can we do that?
It's insane. It's insane. They give us, choices to vote for, basically. So they've been working out this in, backroom deals for a long time, the system we got here, right?
Oh, yeah.
The red
Well,
team
the
and the blue
cannabis
team.
one's
And
right
the
out
red team
the
and the
open.
blue team, they both hate each other, man. And they don't agree with anything the other one has to say, except they're both all working for the same guy up there, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, that's
it.
Right.
Their owners are still the same.
You got one or two choices.
Yeah. And they'll give
They're
you a
all by
third
the same
choice.
guy.
The
Yeah.
third choice,
It's to make it fair.
yeah, they can't win. We all know they can't win. But, and then
But in the end, just in case they do.
and the slick advertising campaigns, they're either scaring
It's
you about
so
the other candidate and what
hateful
they're
now.
going to do, or
Yeah.
they're scaring you about this or that, or,
It's not political campaigns. It's
not.
hate campaigns.
We could have
now
such a
and
good place to
insult campaigns. It's got
I know.
nothing to do with what they're doing or what,
Yeah. We need people to stand
a
up
waste
there
of
and say,
money.
look, I'm going to stand up to the corporations,
Yeah.
and we're going to get prices down on everything, especially the basics right off the bat. Fuel, if we even need it. I mean, maybe we could go away from fossil fuel for driving vehicles. They could have a vehicle that's solar powered quite easily. The entire car body collects the solar energy.
There's an
Easy.
African guy that designed one of those.
Yeah,
I just-
not hard.
yeah.
We've had some breakthroughs in solar
By the
collecting
way,
technology.
I got a Nigerian lawyer.
Oh, do you? Wow.
my,
He's based on the
thing.
statistics, he's probably smoking weed.
Yeah, probably. He was all excited when he seen what he was writing.
For those of you keeping notes on how to have a non-fossil burning car, I'll continue that. The solar collecting car body and the way of capturing power through braking and friction going through the atmosphere with high powered precision turbo fans that'll spin when you go through, just the friction of the air. All those things gather up power. You don't even really need that much power,
Yeah,
because what you're going to do is you're going to charge up some electric motors. That's all you need is some battery packs that'll run some electric motors. And you're not using the electric motor for your car as much as you're using, because what you're going to use for your car is a compressed air engine. And you're just going to use the electric motors, the little ones, to compress air. And you can store that air in the tubular frame of the vehicle with different shut-off points and
Right.
lots of safeguards built in there. It's easy. In India, they've got a compressed air car, and it works extremely well. So if we're not stupid, people are smart. You can combine technologies. We're way ahead of burning fossil fuel in our cars. Trillions of dollars going into the pockets of oil companies because they want to sell their fossil fuel. And what, in 2020, we still have to be putting a bunch of fuel into our cars and paying them hundreds and hundreds every month?
I read there.
Yeah, but even that's a bit of a joke, you know. You pay for that power too, and you shouldn't have to pay for any of it because the sun's pelting you with more than enough power to build your battery packs, to run those little compressed, or those little electric engines to compress the air. It's simple and easy. We're not stupid, but they pretend they're stupid. And anybody who comes up with, you know, water for fuel or compressed air engines or these things, they're at risk, man, because they've killed a lot of people trying to protect their monopoly. Yeah. But anyway, so now I put it out there. No point killing me. Not trying to patent anything, not building these cars myself, just putting it out there, you know. Pretty easy to build a car that runs on compressed air with a couple little electric motors that are fueled by the sun and friction, and then we'll see what happens. So, geez, I always want to get serious during this move. I'm looking forward to the times in the Martin medical moment when we really have some cases to talk about. We've been kind of in limbo here for a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And that's on purpose too, right? Yeah. Like that's on purpose too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're taking different
They are dragging shit out like you wouldn't believe, right?
And, you know, you get rid of that crown is a huge, hopefully a huge, I'm sure.
Well, I didn't like your first crown. I mean, I'm glad he's gone.
And I'm sure he's passed it on to the new crown to treat me extra special. That won't be the first time I had that happen in jail.
Maybe he'll take my call and talk to me because your other crown hung up on me. But maybe your new crown will take a call.
Yeah.
And I just want him to clarify, how is it that we're willing to prosecute somebody with Canadian tax dollars where there appears to be no victim? There is no mens rea of you thinking about it and going, well, I know this is going to fuck a lot of people up, but man, I'm going to make some money, so I'm going to do it anyway, right?
I didn't think
there was none of that going on.
Yeah,
there was no
so small a town.
No knowledge in your mind that what you were doing was going to hurt anybody. In fact, quite the opposite.
Except for myself.
Except for yourself being at risk, of course. But as far as, you know, the mens rea, that necessity for criminal law where you had to know you were hurting people before you did it, before they can call you a criminal. If you didn't know you were going to hurt people, unless you were being really stupid or greedy, you know, then it can be a crime too. But if you just did something and you didn't have any intent to hurt anybody, it's not a crime. So where was the mens rea there? Where's your thinking, I know this is going to make me some money and people are going to get hurt, so it's worth the money. No, there was none of that. And there was no action that ever hurt anybody. You never reached out and punched anybody. You never knowingly and never did sell anybody something that was going to hurt them in any way. How can they do this? I want to know from your prosecutor. That's what I asked your last prosecutor. He refused to tell me. He said, "Are you a lawyer?" I said, "No, but I'm a citizen. I have some lay understanding of what's right and wrong here and how our law is supposed to work. I just want a simple answer. Mens rea, actus rea, was there any in Jerry's case?"
Yeah.
And he would not answer me.
No, he won't answer.
Because there was none.
No, no. It's just.
So I want to ask the new crown that question, see what he says about it. I'll be nice. I'm always nice, you know, until they start
I'm not talking to this one.
Well, you're not always nice. That's why. I don't blame you.
Well,
I don't blame you. I'm not always nice either, by the way. You know, sometimes I let that thing. But, you know, I try to be. I always start out nice. You know, I want to have a conversation with somebody. We're all doing the right thing, aren't we?
If he treated me fairly, you know, let's all treat him fairly.
If he's a human being, believing that he's doing the right thing, then he should be able to talk to me about that and explain that to me.
I still want to know where his little calculator is, where he figures out how much time you get off and shit for all the donations and 10%.
I want to see the books on how much we were billed for.
You know, he didn't even know how much time I would be getting. You know,
it's crazy.
You know, I said, "How much time am I going to be doing if I do this?" And he says, "I don't know." I said, "How can you not know, man? You're putting people in prison, destroying their lives, and you don't know."
No. That is a job you must take extremely seriously.
I don't think they really care to know.
I know.
Maybe they just vent that shit out so they don't have to feel guilty about what they're doing.
They keep pretty focused on you know, what works for them, what makes them feel like they're doing the right thing.
Coming every week.
That's why he hung up on me. You know, he didn't want to roll around even the possibilities.
Yeah.
You know, because that's a scary thing for him to do. But I'd like to know how much money he's walking away with, after over 3 years of being on the file, billing his time for not getting you into court yet. Well, not getting you your final day in court. You've had, 30-some appearances in court over the 3 years? Or?
Yeah, I know. We're pushing 40.
Pushing 40 now?
It's got to be 40, coming up
what
to 40.
What a criminal waste of our money, And in the meantime, all those poor people in Whitewood and the surrounding area that were using your services are now no longer able to.
No, now there's a whole lot of other things.
The town has lost some of its population.
Meth houses, and it's out of control over there now. It's not just there; it's all the small towns.
It is. If you're in a small town in Canada and you're having trouble with opioids or meth and those sorts of things, well, blame your government for not allowing easy access to cannabis.
And they banned cannabis stores from small towns under 2,500 people. So no small town is allowed to benefit, right?
Who does that protect?
Even if they do, then the government there said, no, none of the communities get any of the money. They get the money.
So corrupt.
In the end,
so corrupt.
Nobody's going to benefit anyways, except for the corporations.
That's it. And that's what's very obvious in the whole file is the only ones that they're attempting to benefit
even the store
are their
owners
corporate
aren't
friends.
really, a lot of them might be, but
we'll see how much
aren't going to benefit either, right? Because they're either going to be too many stores and the cost is so high, and the products, for the most part, is garbage. And
there's not going to be a lot of resales. The daily users can't be using those stores. It's too expensive, and the weed's not good. Anybody who knows good weed, wouldn't buy there.
And I think Canopy has 9 U.S. firms now after them suing them. A lot of them are in big trouble now, right?
It's a mess, and it's all because we did it. We had it. We had all these dispensaries self-regulating themselves. We had no problems with them. We showed them this is what the cannabis marketplace should look like. There should be every small community in your town should have a little dispensary there, and it doesn't hurt anybody. It's not scaring anybody.
Give a little back to your community. In my case, a lot, but
it's really a corrupt system, and it's really too bad that so many people are being hurt.
It's all it is to them.
It's a big money scheme. Yes, it is. Well, Jerry, I really appreciate that, man. I ran a little bit into your time with Glenn today, but we don't have quite too much to talk about yet anyway, but we'll catch up next week on some of your other little projects.
Yeah, it's coming up, so his is in March, so hopefully we'll get some sort of date coming up in the next month or two.
I think by the end of February we'll have some things to talk about with respect to some of these cases
hopefully.
Anyway.
Or next week, I guess.
All right, very good, Jerry. Take care. Have as much fun as you can. Well, as we get to the main portion of the show, as promised, we've got the odd man from the woods, the Potsquatch from the Potsquatch growers. Josh has been a grower of cannabis and a user of cannabis for a very long time. He's got dozens of YouTube videos helping people understand the ins and outs of growing. And I'm really thrilled that he's joining me on the show today because it's that time of year where we need to start thinking about putting our seeds in the pots and in the ground. If you're going to grow indoors, it doesn't matter. But for those that want to take advantage of the sunlight, February is typically the time when you start your plants indoors and then move them to the outdoor. But in any case, I'm going to let the Potsquatch tell us all about that kind of stuff and see what he has to say about what he thinks we should and shouldn't do in the way of producing our own cannabis. Very glad to have you in studio, sir.
Well, thank you very much for having me today.
Yeah, you've been at it for quite a while.
Yeah, well, a day or two. I mean, we've been on YouTube now for about 2 and a bit years now, and I mean, the last 8 or 9 months is where it's really kind of...
Prior to that, you were a little bit more behind the scenes.
Totally, yeah.
You've been growing for a long time.
Since I was about, started really playing around with it at about 12, 13 years old.
And where were you at that time?
Vancouver, BC. So I just
you grew up in Vancouver?
Yeah, I did actually. So I moved out to Vancouver the summer I turned 12 from Ontario back in the hood days of my early years. So in many senses, I mean, I learned about cannabis in BC.
So your introduction was here?
Not
prior to that. So you came out here about 12, and by 13 you were
by 13 I was like, oh man, I'm
growing.
smoking weed, I like this. I'm in high school, and I'm high, and I'm actually getting good marks anyway, so it's all right,
Yeah.
So
I think high gets a bad rap when it comes to cannabis. High is what we go for all the time.
Well, exactly, right? And it worked
we
for
even
me.
got His Highness here now.
Oh, I know. Are they here yet now?
Off and on, I think, back and forth.
Oh, good.
I don't know.
Good, yeah.
Megan or the Duchess, I don't know, maybe she doesn't get to use that. They're just the Highnesses now because they're in BC. They still get to retain the high part of their title.
Oh,
but otherwise,
okay.
I don't think they get to use the titles that they had before. So
Yeah,
maybe she's
okay.
not the Duchess. I'm not sure. I don't care.
I don't know.
I don't know about
I'm
any of
not
that
really
stuff.
into it.
All I know is they have influence.
Yeah.
They have money and they have influence, and that makes them important. I'm not happy about them thinking they're the boss, the whole monarchy thing and having a queen and all that stuff. I'm not too happy
Well,
about
I think
that.
a big part of it is they actually want to step down from the monarchy. That's the whole point.
Well, these
of it.
two
Yeah,
do.
or these two,
Yeah.
right? And so that I respect. They're like, hey,
Sure.
we want to have our own life,
Yeah.
and maybe this is an outdated system. Maybe we might just go have a family instead.
I know I'm going to offend people, but princes and princesses and kings
Oh,
and
yes.
queens and things like that.
I think I
they're
come
for
from
fairy tales in
4,000
the
years.
past.
Yeah, I come from 4,000 years of serfdom. So
Yeah, me too. Well, no, that's not true. Oh my God, I just realized that. I'm going to take this off. The Canucks are great and everything, but I didn't mean to wear it for the whole show. An old someone I knew in high school who recently discovered me sent me some things on the origin of Neil and the origin of Magnuson. And apparently there was a king of Sweden and then Norway afterwards. He took over the kingdomship of Norway. Didn't actually take them over, but he stood in as king for them when the other king died, I guess. But there was an Eric Magnuson back then that was king of Sweden and Norway. So, and those are my roots. I know that's where my ancestors came from. So maybe I got royalty in my blood after all.
Right, exactly.
All right, I'm done with this. You people can just not get weed. I got.
you know my time about this. Goodbye, I'm out. Sorry.
I'm already a highness. I don't need any more. Not. I would not accept that at all. Jeez, I don't even like this role. I don't even like being the guy in charge of a talk show.
Oh no, I feel you.
I like kind of being the guy in behind the scenes, just kind of helping things work. Making things work well. That's what I like doing.
Well, I understand you in that regard, and I mean it's funny for me, like with the YouTube and stuff, and as we're getting pretty big now and slowly but surely growing in the community and all over the world now, and I'll just randomly call people. They'll send me an email asking a question, so I'll have time and I'll be like, oh, hi, how's it going? How can I help you today? And they're freaking out. I'm like, no, I'm just a person. Like, I'm calling to help, hey.
Yeah.
And it's easier to talk than send you a little email.
Oh yeah, so much pressure being the guy.
Yeah.
So never really liked that. But if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself sometimes. And I'm a kind of a yes man. I try to say yes to opportunities as they arrive. As I plant seeds and create opportunities, I like to say yes to them when they arrive, if at all possible, and then just see where that leads me. And it's kind of led me to here. So you came to BC as a young person, got pretty quickly into understanding the cannabis scene, started growing some weed, but I don't know if you want to talk about that a little more before we go into a little later. But you were growing weed. Tell me a little bit about that as a real young person. In your mom and dad's backyard, sort of thing, hidden in the corner of the garden.
Well, actually, other people's parents' backyards because my parents were priests.
Were they religious?
Yeah, both my mom and dad are Anglican priests.
So I see.
It was kind of cloak and dagger, learning about marijuana in secret.
See.
I hid my High Times magazines,
Right.
and all of that.
At least the Anglicans are a little more progressive than some of the other religions.
They are, and most of them are drunk anyway. So it's, and most
Communion.
of them are fairly friendly. Yeah, no. It was funny when I worked
communing with the Lord.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, the Anglicans at this university were there. My parents always at the church out, a special holiday. It's a very big festive thing, and everyone is enjoying that. Yeah. So
I'm going to offend a lot of people today by the looks of it.
That's all right. I've spent my entire career doing it. You can blame me. They can blame my priest parents.
If you're offended, you're not doing it right.
That's exactly. You got to do something
wrong
right
with you.
Yeah.
Not me, but anyway, so you were growing. Did you know about flowering or curing or any of that stuff?
Oh yeah, I learned at a very early age. I did a lot of reading.
Did you have mentors?
Not really for the first 6
read a
or
book?
7 years. I read a lot of books.
Oh, okay.
And I did a lot of trial and error, right? And that's part of why I do what I do with our YouTube is because it took me a lot of years of screwing up to kind of start to learn stuff. And I wanted to make things a little bit more accessible for those who are wanting to learn to grow.
I tell people every day's practice.
Oh, yeah.
There's no grower having a real day out there. They're all just practicing every time.
Oh, exactly. The true grower is the forever student, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the day you cease growing as a grower, how are you therefore a grower, right?
Yeah.
What? So, and that's what we do, right? So, early on, it was just sort of me playing around, dinking around, and
did you get much yield? Were you smoking your own buds?
Not at first. After a couple of years, though, it really started to get real, and very quickly, all of a sudden, all of a sudden I kind of got it. And all these things were kind of coming together in my head. And I've got guys who've been doing this 15, 20 years going, what do you think, man? I mean, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, I would do this and well, maybe we'll try this and this. And then it just started working out. And then before I knew it, I was consulting people and helping people with their grows. And I was always doing my own personal medical grow. I've been licensed since the days of the
I was going to get to
MMARP.
that as well, because you had some medical issues that you were dealing with. As well.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I mean, well, I am a neuropathic pain patient, so I live in a continuous migraine.
That's like the most serious pain known to humans, is that
I technically qualify for disability, but I mean, with cannabis, I can function and work and run my company and do all that I do, and we can save the disability for people who really need it.
Right. But you also had cancer?
Oh, I did. Yeah, I'm down a friend now. I'm an almighty monoball. It was one of the most aggressive tumors actually ever seen on the West Coast, and I named him Larry the Ball.
I learned last night watching The Good Doctor that aggressive means it's able to hide from the immune system.
Oh yeah. Oh, it was it was funny. Once Larry got found out, quote unquote, I had found the tumor, and it was kind of one of those moments where I found it, and then especially as a male, I'm sitting there for the next 9 hours convincing myself it's not there. Eventually, I was like, no, this is real. Okay, I need to call my doctor. So I just called her, and I was up front. I said, hi. Could you please tell Dr. Colburn that I need to see her pretty much probably today? I'm pretty sure I got the ball cancer, and I'm a comedian as well and an actor, so I make
Born that way.
Born that way, right? And it was a great way to help my family. I think who were pretty upset at the time when I was sick. I was still cracking jokes about it.
That's scary. The way to do it for me too. That's the only thing I got is I can keep myself laughing.
Well, and positive energy
in the face of just about anything.
It's a big part of it, I think, is keeping yourself positive. Even it doesn't mean it's not scary and there's not dark points to being sick, but doing your best to stay positive, I think, plays just as much of a part as even the cannabis itself as a medicine. I think they go hand in hand, right?
Sure, because cannabis is a euphoria.
Oh, totally.
Euphorant.
Yeah.
And I think that's a wonderful thing that nature's done there, because it's a medicine that you're going to take because it's an anti-inflammatory. It's going to help you with your pain or whatever. But it's going to also tweak your sense of humor a little bit and distract you a little bit with something funny over there. And isn't that a wonderful thing to have happen to you when you're not feeling good? You know?
Yeah. I mean, when I went into the specialist that morning, and my mom is really on edge, and I had to call her afterwards, and so it'd been confirmed. Okay, you got the ball cancer there, Josh. So I called her, and so she starts crying, and I said, "No, don't worry, Mom. It's okay. I've named the tumor. His name's Larry. Larry the ball tumor. I took my favorite nut to the dark side of the ball for his mom, but don't worry, I've got another favorite now. His name's Bartholomew the True, my one and only Starbuck." And so she kind of laughed a little bit, right? But I mean, I think keeping it light helped get through that part of my life. Yeah, for sure.
And cannabis certainly helps with keeping it light, as well as the other things that it can do. And you were taking large amounts of cannabis during that time?
Oh yeah, pretty much. I still do. I mean, I'm smoking anywhere from 5 to 10 doobies typically a day.
Do you use the concentrates?
I do use a lot of rosins as well. I like to put them in my joints. Like, I'm still old school. I like my doobies.
Eat much edibles?
I eat a lot of candies sometimes. Now I'm watching my sugar now, so I make a sort of infused foods. We're actually launching a cooking show with Typhoon TV, where I'm going to be doing a how-to cooking show now.
Nice.
Kind of like an Emeril Lagasse from back in the day, the New Orleans chef. High energy, lots of fun. Have some guests on the show and teach them how to cook cannabis, and then I'll make them eat it, and then we'll interview them and see how high they get at the end.
Right. So you're not just growing it; you're cooking with it.
Well, as an actor, comedian, and grower, sometimes you got to have a lot of different work. So I've been a bartender, I've been a cook, I've been a baker, I've been the head of a security department for Universe. I've been around.
I see. Right on. So I want to talk to you about growing.
Yeah.
This is the time of year when people start thinking about putting plants in the ground, or in pots or whatever. What would you say is a good way to germinate, or maybe should we go to pick seeds? If I want to go in order of what we're going to do here, you're going to pick some seeds?
Yeah, well, basically, genetics are a big thing. I mean, a lot of people in the community, there's a lot of misnomers of people will be like, oh, a bag seed is bad. You can't get good cannabis from a bag seed. Excuse me, I've been growing for almost 20 years. It's some of the best cannabis. I didn't know what it was, but it was a bag seed. Right. Doesn't inherently mean, the seeds you've been saving over the years are not
They're not all necessarily herms.
No, yeah.
If they're in there.
Yeah. You never know what happened, right?
Put it in the ground and find out, I guess, is a good.
Well, exactly. And learning to look for the signs of that. But, so genetics is a good place to start. In terms of basic germination, I mean, even for outdoors, I'm a big fan of getting them going inside first. So they're kind of
me too.
A little set up,
Yep.
It's not like I'm sending in a little kid out into the snow. It's like, okay, okay, little 2-year-old Timmy, go shovel the driveway now. I've let him grow up a little bit, right? So
Yeah, no, I will always recommend that as well. Get them in by the end of February inside, and then,
totally.
and then by the time March, April, May comes, they're
Yeah, and one of the things I like to do in the indoor pots is once they're germed, and I'll start in a solo.
And how would
cup.
you germinate them?
I'm old school. This is my favorite. I've been doing it since I was 13 this way, and it never fails me. I do it for my big grows or my small grows. I soak them in water. For the first 24 hours, I just let them sit.
So you put them in a little dish of water?
A little dish of water, shot glass. I mean, I have a lot of shot glasses when I'm busting a bunch of seeds, so I just kind of arrange it all on a grid system, and I dump them in, and then I come back 24 hours later. If any are still floating, that doesn't mean they're not genetically viable. I go tap, tap, tap. That allows the water to go inside the seed to activate the wonderful genetic material in there. Leave it for another 24 hours, then you put it on paper towels, plastic bag underneath, or over top, cut a little slit in it, put in between 2 plates. Keep it at room temperature in the dark. Happy, happy, happy.
I see.
Simple, but it works.
You have to be very careful with them. They're delicate.
Oh, very, very careful, yeah. So when you're going to plant your rooted sprouts, I like to let them develop a bit to about 1.5 centimeters to about 1 inch maybe. Right. Then they're a little bit hardier too, so it's a little bit, but yeah, so it's ever so slightly you pick it up, and you make your little hole in your pot. Just gently put it in. Like, it's kind of like you're diffusing a bomb, but it's the opposite.
You just have to be aware you're dealing with a baby.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Super delicate. Like, and there's been
and
times...
It doesn't take much to traumatize them. It doesn't take much to hurt them.
And if you put them down too tight, like, for example, if you're just the slightest too much pressure on the top of sort of putting it in that soil there, it'll struggle to break through because it's only got so much energy in that
So you put them right under the soil to begin with? You don't leave anything sticking out?
No, I will put it down about maybe 3 or 4 millimeters because the fact that it needs to work through that first layer of soil, I'm a big believer in that it does something because
there's a process in there.
Making it work a little bit, kind of like, or letting it throw its own husk off when it's breaking from seed.
Exactly.
Let it work. I mean, it's Mother Nature.
Because there's a balance there with the plant of needing to be stressed, but not stressed too much.
No, exactly.
Right? There's a limit there, a balance that you need to maintain.
Oh, totally.
Right?
Totally.
And transplanting is probably the most crucial time when you're dealing with a plant when it comes to that you can stress it.
Totally. And so what I typically do is I'll start it in a solo cup, and then I'll let that solo cup actually build up to a point where actually the first kind of singular trifoliate serrated start to actually yellow. It's self-cannibalizing and root locking mildly. Why do I do that? Well, when I transplant it to the next pot, I'm going to put it into a 2-gallon pot to finish it off for about 4 weeks before I take it outside at this point. And that little sort of root ball in this cup is going to be like a root grenade. It's going to explode. Right. And then it's going to be ready to go in. And then when you get your, whether we're going to just a straight to bed or you're going to go build it up, it's going to have a lot more room to run.
Right.
And it's just sort of, how
many times do you transplant in the process?
Typically for me, I will transplant, like, I'm more of an indoor grower year round, and that's what my licenses are for my medical grows, is just because neighbors and stuff, right? And even though I live in the woods, I still got neighbors. Damn.
Yeah, lots of people are limited in the ways that they can grow, for sure.
Yeah, and I just like to keep it to myself. It's my personal business, even though I do, put it all over the internet, but...
You don't put your address there.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So I do, a solo cup usually, and then I'll go to a 1 or a 2-gallon pot, and then I go into my final pot. So I usually am going.
And the final pot, how big is that?
10 or 20 gallon indoors. Outdoors, you're going to want to go 40 to 100, if not more gallons, if you want to grow a giant monster. Because the more root ball that you have, the more weed you will in the end get, and it's
where are you getting your soil, or where would a person get soil, and what options are there?
A lot of us growers out in the Fraser Valley, one of the industry standard, it's simple, it's affordable, it's a good go-to, is Pro Mix HP. It's got a little cocoa in there, so keep in mind.
So you're buying it from the store. You're not getting soil from out in the woods or anything like that.
Well, I would if I had a larger oven to like pasteurize things and do all of that kind of stuff. So right now, and I'm quite busy with doing a bunch of different stuff, so I don't have tons of time to run out into the woods and do that. So
but the Pro Mix works pretty good.
It's
at the hardware stores and the grow stores.
It's reliable too, and it's good stuff. I mean, I've been using it now as an easy, affordable go-to that I don't have to think about too much for years. I mean.
So do you make clones, obviously?
Oh, yeah. Right now we're actually doing a big pheno hunt to get a bunch of new mothers going actually at our place.
So how do you recommend people make clones, and at what stage, and how would you do that?
Well, in terms of basic clones, I mean, to have the most success, taking it in a vegetative state, taking a nubile shoot is always good, right? So not taking a huge stock on that plant and going, oh my goodness, let's get that. It's old, it must be strong. No, the nubile shoots will be more prone to having roots kind of coming out, right? I like to go old school sometimes and just clone in water. You just take a young shoot, scrape the bottom inch of it, clip your leaves, throw it in some water.
So you cut it with a razor blade?
Yep.
And then scrape up a little bit on the...
Yeah, basically that bottom inch and a half, you're going to open up that top layer of tissue to allow the water to get in. Then you're going to clip the leaves of the cutting you've taken, because that's going to trigger the plant like, oh no, I have damage now. I need to grow roots so I can continue myself. So, and then I just throw it in water and let it do its natural thing. From a vegging cutting or vegetative cutting, you can get roots usually in about 3 to 7 days that way.
Right.
Watch the water; it could get gunky. So even putting a little hydrogen peroxide in there too, just to keep the water happy, is always a possibility. 3% solution, of course, but yeah, that's kind of the way I like to do it. Or you can use rooting hormones, or you can use rock wool. A lot of people will do. You can clone in dirt. There's peat moss pellets. There's a lot of options, really. But the basic premise is trigger the roots.
So the big one for you, I would say, is lights as an indoor grower.
Yes.
And you actually have some insights on some new lights that you're involved with that you can tell us about.
Yeah, actually, well, it all kind of started at first where, I didn't think I'd ever release a lighting brand or do that. I thought about it as a nerd for fun, but I never really took it seriously. We had been using some lights from HLG, which we were quite happy with as a new type of using a Samsung chip-based light. They were quite expensive, which was a hard thing for me and for a lot of growers too, especially when they're getting going, is lights are very expensive.
That's the most expensive part of growing indoors.
Pretty much, yeah. Especially when you're wanting to go with sort of LEDs. And the initial expenditure on an LED might be a little bit more than going with the traditional HPS, but pays for itself in a run or two in terms of power savings.
Do they last longer?
Last vastly longer. You have to normally switch out your HPS bulb every 2 to 3 runs for max efficiency, because the older they get, they suck more power, throw out more heat, so you're actually paying more for less in terms of final product.
I see. Big
also heat issues and danger. You're getting 1.5 foot of an HPS, your hair's on fire, and I'm losing a lot, so let's not burn my hair off. And I like my beard, right? So, but...
Yeah, you look like a glass blower, actually.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
I guess they're just tempting fate. I don't know, but there's something about glass blowing and having a big beard down there that seem to go hand in hand.
I have a huge amount of respect for it.
Me too. Hell yeah.
The closest I get is maybe the dab rig or lighting a joint with my torch or something.
Right. Yeah. So you actually have these lights that you make available for people, or how does that work?
Yes, actually. So basically, how it started is I got frustrated by a lot of the light companies out there. Too expensive. To get anything that was worthwhile using for someone was going to cost them an arm and a leg. I knew how much tech costs, and I was like, and I understand, production and warehousing costs, etc. But there was so much markup.
It is the biggest cost for sure.
But the warehousing was huge. That they're building this huge markup into it, right? So I got mad at the internet, and I got mad at the world, and I said through our YouTube, screw it. We're going to release our own lighting brand.
Right.
We'll beta market in 3 to 6 months. At which point I had zero clue how I was going to do it. I'm not the most I'm a nerd, but I'm not an electrical engineer. But I'm like, that's okay. I have tenacity. We'll find a way.
It's good to have big goals.
Right. Well, my friend Tom is an electrical engineer. He said, talk to Soul Strip in California. They're a great. They make great strips. They're predominantly a parts company. They had some prefab rigs they kind of made occasionally, but. So we ended up talking, and then Brett and I realized, oh my goodness, we're very similar. Well, why don't we work together rather than, I'll just sell you strips.
Collaborations are usually very productive.
Well, exactly. We were able to bring lights to market in about 3 months.
Wow.
The Squatch lighting series. And we actually just released, as of today, our new website goes up. I think it should be up now.
Are they only available online?
Yes. So we do a direct sale order through our website. Mm-hmm. We build them currently to order. So once you order your light, we get we custom build your light. We vet it for you. We run it through the ringer because we're growers building these things for you. We want to know that it's going to work.
Right.
Because we're here to sell you lights that'll keep running. And if something were to break after years of using it, we'll sell you a part to fix it. We're not going to charge you $1 billion.
So how do they find you?
What's that?
How do they find that?
Go to our main website, potsquatchgrowers.com. I do apologize right now. It's not the prettiest of websites. I built it, and it's not my specialty.
You're a grower, not a builder.
Yeah. But if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you'll find a link to our page of Soulstrip and I. It's also all over our YouTube. We're Potsquatch Growers on YouTube there. So,
right. How many YouTube videos you got?
300 something now.
Well, I said dozens.
Yeah, no, it's 300 something.
I knew you had a lot.
Yeah, the scary thing is there's people out there who have watched all of my content multiple times. They know it better than I do. I haven't watched everything I've released. Right. I just made it sometimes and just put it on the internet. And like they're quoting things to me, and I'm like, whoa. Okay, do you remember what I did in this video? They're like, you did this. Great, thanks, man. I did this in this video.
I'm the same. I got some friends that are saying, well, when you talked about apologies, episode such and such, and I'm like, oh, okay.
What? Yes, we've done a lot of how-to videos. A big thing we do now is live streams too. So we have an international community. We're on 5 out of the 6 continents. We're all over America, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, even in Russia now. We went past the Iron Curtain now, and that was cool
Iron
for
Curtain
me.
came down a long time ago now.
Well, I still call it that in my mind. So
you are old school.
Certain things are still stuck in my brain.
Yeah.
So long story short, that was a cool one. When I saw that people in Russia were tuning in, I was like, whoa, man, that's cool. Like,
so how do you know when it's the right time to harvest?
well, basically for me, I'm a big believer in trichrome colors, okay?
Right.
So I'm going to base my things on what am I seeing in the trichrome. If we're going for highest THC, there's almost 468 psychoactive cannabinoids.
But just about everybody's going for highest THC.
THC is what we all talk about. So let's talk about THC for a moment. Basically, on most plants, you're going to see a huge milkiness or throughout all of your trichromes represented. That's sort of that peak THC moment.
Is when they get milky.
Yeah, full milk, no
little tinge of orange or yellow.
That is actually the start of the conversion to CBN and other cannabinoids changing.
I see. So you want to catch it before it does.
Yes, and actually one of the things that, like for example, a lot of rosins that are being made that are very light in color, we're actually harvesting those early.
I see.
Those light
On purpose.
colors, yeah, because those light colors come from the color of the trichrome. So when you see rosin, some of them, that's like a ghost-looking rosin. It's almost like a ghost kind of a thing. Early pick, very light trichromes. Maybe not even a full milk. Some of them.
So is that good?
It's all about preference.
Right.
So it's different for
what would be
everybody.
the differences? Like if you let it go a little longer, you're going to go to the CBN, which is
CBN
more,
world,
which is more towards indica. Is much more of a sleepy part of the
totally. And I mean, for me as a pain patient, I mean, I've always been a big fan of the indica world and kushes. That's kind of my personal happy place. So like I'll even take a heavy indica and I'll pick it late. I'll let it go till 10-20% amber trichromes myself.
I see.
I've gotten as high as 75 before.
So what distinguishes a sativa from an indica?
Well, typically, now mind you, this is less so now because of all the interbreeding that we've seen. So some things will look structurally like a sativa, but then it's actually like an indica in terms of the way it smells and tastes. Classically, sativas are taller, thinner, more sort of leggy, long, beautiful ladies.
The buds are a little less dense.
Less dense, but then at the same time, you can get some super crazy giant buds in sativa plants where they're still a little bit airier, though, right? Mm-hmm. Where indicas are classically much bigger leaves, they're broader, they're shorter. I like to describe a true old school genetic physics. It's kind of like built like a brick shit house. It's real tough.
So is there a difference in the resin glands themselves? Like you're saying, if you let it go when it starts to turn color, you're getting into the CBNs, which is the sleep cannabinoid. So does that mean that it could go from more of a sativa-ish high to an indica-ish high, depending on how long you let it grow?
Definitely you're going to get a heavier hit with that, for sure. And I mean, that for me, like if I were to grow a sativa or a hybrid that had more of a sativa phenotype to it, I'm going to do a late pick on that one. Because given I'm such a kush-loving person, an indica person for my use with cannabis.
So it'd be a little less sativa-ish if you do that.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of sativa, to be honest with you. A lot of my fans...
the high or the grower? Because the plants don't yield as much, so as a grower, I'm sure you'd prefer
that I'm not as worried about, to be fair. I mean, I love, yield is sometimes second to me if it's producing a beautiful flower. But the taste of it, the smell of it, I like the smell maybe, but it's wrong. Like when I smoke it, it dries out my soft palate. I find a lot of sativas trigger my anxiety, actually, where indicas just make me feel good.
Right. A sativa can really get me kind of needing to do things. Like,
right.
My brain's going... I guess the best example is if I'm trying to fall asleep. And my mind is just kind of racing about all kinds of different things.
Totally.
And I know, okay, well, that was definitely some sativa or, whatever. I guess I'm not sure if sativa is the right term. I'm not sure if all these things are scientific yet. We're going to see how that washes out the next decade,
One could even argue that sativa and indica is kind of a fictional thing, and even more so now. It was not necessarily invented in a lab. We went, well, this obviously, it was a bunch of growers, and we were like, okay, so these plants that came from this part of the world in this kind of a climate seem to act this way, and then these other plants that came from over here, and they are shorter, they're different, and so we kind of began classifying.
They looked different, they had different effects,
different
and they sort
smells, tastes,
But really, the indica sativa just might turn out to be not as solid as what we thought it was.
It's
looking that way.
Totally, and especially with all the intermixing that's going on now, all the hybrid strains out there, and a lot of the work that a lot of different breeders are doing and stuff. So that's why I love old school strains. I do my darndest to find old seeds when I can, or and reach out through the community and stuff, because finding these old strains is important, I think, because I think
man.
we've lost a lot of this.
I miss some of those old strains
Oh,
for sure. I
man.
think about them a lot. So in harvesting, how do you recommend people harvest?
Okay, so
I know it's a little early for that. We're mostly talking about planting seeds. But,
Yeah, right.
But, we're going to try to get the whole cycle out in this
No,
show here.
totally.
So, how do you harvest? How do you recommend people harvest?
Well, basically, whether you're doing an indoor or an outdoor, typically what I'll do before the last couple of days, one good trick you can do is you can actually split the bottom of your stalk. A lot of outdoor growers especially will do this because on an indoor grow, I can drop the temperatures to trigger triching out and a lot of cool terpenes and cannabinoids. It's kind of hard to AC the outside, So, but if you go in and you trigger this plant to go into self-defense mechanism, so it trichs out, produces more cannabinoids, just kind of does the final push for the last couple of days. So some of my buddies down in Cali will just take a big nail and just shoot it right through the bottom of the stalk of the plant there, and they'll do that right near the end. Some guys will do it
To shock it into...
triggering a trichrome production, and the buds tighten up, and they go...
And once it gets cold, the plant starts to think, well, it's the end of the season. I better attract that female pollen pretty quick.
Totally. So it's producing crazy
Or male
resins,
Male pollen.
But now,
Well, there
mind
are some lesbian
unless
plants,
it's a
maybe, but-
hermaphrodited plant, then that is technically a female pollen, and thus was the birth of feminized seeds, children. But totally, and then it gets all sappy and sexy.
And turns a little purple, too.
Oh, totally. That's what I love to do. In indoors, I crank my ACs, drop the temperature down super low. You get cool purples and pinks, and
And there's that real push by the plant that, got to get sticky.
right,
Got to get
100%.
sticky.
And that last 2 weeks push, and especially when you use a bit of cooling, sort of incorporate, especially on the sleep points on that one, it really is a lot of fun.
So once you've harvested, then the curing is very important.
Yeah, so basically I like to do a dry trim. So what does that mean? Basically when I harvest, I'll cut it at the bottom of the plant. I'll try to keep the entire plant whole because there's still cannabinoids and beautiful throwing throughout that. So with the gravity, if you hang it upside down, it'll go down into your buds.
So that's not a myth, that's a real thing.
Oh, it's
Hanging
a
your
real
plant
thing.
upside down
Yeah.
for a while is a good thing to do.
Yeah, so you harvest the whole thing and then hang it up that way. I'll clean it up, take a lot of the fan leaves off, but leave a lot of the sugar intact to slow that drying window. So the first step is to dry as slowly as possible without having mold or negative things, because that's also allowing...
So the humidity in the room is important.
Yes, relative humidity, I like to dry it is about 50 to 53.
And you can get little humidity counters.
Totally.
Yeah.
They're like $10 now at
Yeah,
Home
they're cheap.
Hardware. Go buy 3 of them at a dollar store even. Those ones even work for a while too. Just throw them around.
They're
in a
great
few
to
different
have.
walls. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just look at the wall. And then you
And
don't have to
temperature
worry.
for curing?
I like to, for curing, I'll typically go just at room temperature on most of my cures, unless I'm going a cold cure, which will be at about 4 or 5 degrees. So I normally cure in my house, so that's normally sitting at about a 19 to 21 degrees centigrade. I dry at about 10 to 14 degrees Celsius. I like to dry the cold, so I am running some ACs in my dry room there.
So it takes a little while longer for it to dry.
Yeah, but it really does trigger some beautiful noses in the terpene profiles and the cannabinoids.
So how long do you let it hang?
Each strain's different.
Okay.
I dry it until it's not so much a set window until it starts to crack. So you want it to crack at the main stalk, but you also want it to crack at the tiny little branches at the top.
I see.
And oddly, the small buds on many plants will dry slower than the big ones in the end. So always check and be checking each part of the plant as you go.
And how do you check?
Well, I'll just go up and touch them. For me, it's a touch test, feeling the stalk. You'll grab the stem. Is it crack? Is it bending? Is there any crack to it? And then you look at the bud, and you can just pretty much tell, especially with a bit of practice, your hand, you can just feel the moisture in it, and it's inherent. Once you get that done properly, right, I'll go through and I'll process everything and get it into jars. I won't trim it yet. And then I'll start trimming my way through, so that way it doesn't get too dry. And then I've hit that perfect moisture point to begin the curing process. Typically, burping is
So you're putting it in a jar. If you're burping it, you put it in a jar?
Yeah, I'm a jar curer. I cure everything in glass jars. Glass is non-reactive. It keeps it happy.
Right.
And obviously in the dark too.
And by burping it, you mean letting out the moisture?
Yeah, moisture and gases. So as it's curing, it's giving off gases. It's respirating. It's breathing in a sense. So basically, we're letting those little gross gases out. It's kind of like, for example...
Because there's a high moisture content in that, and you need to get that.
Well, exactly. And at the end of the day, I mean, if you hit that perfect moisture level and when you put it into the jar, you should be good. You shouldn't have it mold. But to get to that perfect point, it can be tricky with practice.
Because it will mold if it's too moist.
Totally, 100%. And it can be quick. When mold sets in on a jarred cannabis, let's say it started 1 second here, like you could even in 6 hours, 7 hours later go in, and you've got a field of wonderful...
Little things.
Yes.
Little living things. There's a couple other areas that we didn't touch on, pests and molds and powdery mildew and that sort of stuff.
Totally.
How do you deal with that stuff?
Well, there is actually a local product that I love using. It's called Jake's All-in-One. Right now, it's actually currently in a legal battle with Healthcare Canada because a big company can't get around their patent. It's a local grower who owns the company, and his dad made the product. They've been on market for years, called Jake's All-in-One. It's all natural. It's not, I'm drinking the stuff to prove the point.
I see.
And so basically, there's a big company right now.
How do you apply it?
Basically, it's usually it's about 30, depending on which we're dealing with. If you're doing powdery mildew, 30 milliliters to a liter of water in your sprayer.
Okay.
For an indoor application, you're going to go in about an hour before your lights come on because you don't want to scorch your plants, but you don't want it to sit wet for too long either. About an hour before is great. Okay. Or for outdoors, you're going to go apply it about an hour before setup.
And of course, a sterile room is the
preventative measures is the number one thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
But if you do have things like a mite or thripe setting in, Jake's is a great deterrent there. There's also a lot of other products out there that are similar that are natural based. Jake's works the best. It's not a formal fungicide or insecticide, but it works. Right. Last year for the outdoor season in the Fraser Valley, I had 16 friends have really bad powdery mildew.
Yeah, everywhere, all through here too.
It was heartbreaking for all these people. It just set in like a torrent. But Jake's helped me save a lot of people's outdoor grows. And the stuff kills the PM on contact, right? So that's what I normally do for that. You can also do a diluted hydrogen peroxide as well to treat with the powdery mildew, for example.
Right.
If you've got things like fungus, gnats, or other things, which are predominantly a nuisance indoors, beneficial nematodes, little fun guys that will sit there and hang out and attack the larval state of the
there's organic ways to deal with these
totally
things.
Right. And I mean, typically when you go full organic, unless you've got a product like Jake's that has a bunch of different things in it that's still all natural, you might have to use a few different tricks to win the battle. It's a war of attrition with many pests. They usually live on a 6-day egg cycle for many of them. So staying on top of it, watch it. Daily gardening is also key. That's the number one thing. Daily gardening is a number one thing for producing a high quality cannabis, in my humble 2 cents.
And that differs from most of the other crops that people grow.
It does. Yeah, totally. Most of it you throw.
I mean, I do respect some of the people that take me to task a little bit on me saying that it should be dollars per pound, not $100 per pound.
Yeah.
But there are costs that incur there. Like the trimming is costly, and like you say, daily attending to your plants
is important.
Is.
It's
especially if you're indoors. There's the lights, there's the fans. You got to have fans. You got to keep the plants moving.
Totally.
And keep the room clean. There are a number of costs involved, and I don't want to put that down as much as I'm more trying to make the point about the cost of things than anything.
And I fully agree with you there too. Another thing that I think
you could grow outdoors. You could just have a crop, and you wouldn't and not do daily growing. Just let it go. Yeah. Let the sun do the work.
100%.
Cut it down. Take it to a marketplace. Boom. Offer it fresh in a bulk situation.
Totally.
And
you could do that. That's a different type of cannabis.
It is a different type of cannabis. It's not what we're really talking about with the cured and manicured buds and the rest of it.
And that's okay. There's a place for all these different levels of cannabis in the marketplace. In the world, I think, you know what I mean?
How do you trim your buds?
I do it by hand. Mm-hmm. I'm old school like that. So
you pay people to come in and help you with it?
No, I usually process it all myself. I've gotten pretty quick. I've got a couple of friends who are nice enough to come help me. I provide them beer and pizza, and
it's a good thing for a lot of people. They get to do a little bit of trim and make some extra money. Yeah. It's really nice.
Yeah, and it's
I was down at the lift show there, and
they
had the big professional trim things there. You put your bud in there, and around it goes, and and they wanted $15,000 for this thing. And I thought, man, you could pay a lot of people. You could pay a lot of people to do it with love by hand,
and they're destroying
keep
the marijuana,
their money.
Man.
Yeah, and that's another side of it is that when people are growing non-commercially, they're growing for themselves, and they're growing for medical needs. And I think there's no non-medical use of cannabis, by the way, in my world. Recreation is recreation. It's a subset of medicine. It's preventative medicine.
100% agree.
So when people are producing this for themselves, there's something pretty special about that, isn't there?
It is. It's like adult arts and crafts. They become your babies. A lot of
putting pictures on the fridge.
Totally. My wife goes in and sings to them with her ukulele.
Right.
She actually did even a music video on our channel where.
Does she want a cut of the crop for doing that?
Well, no, she just wants to go in and talk to them. To be fair, I mean, she's having a good time. She's an interesting woman. I love her very much. And a lot of my students, they talk about who are newer growers. I just can't stop. I sometimes I go in and sit there with my plants for hours and look at them. I said, there's nothing wrong with that. Love them,
Yeah, exactly.
Because they are living creatures. They do respond to these energies. It's. I'm both science and holistic when it comes to the way I approach
There seems to be a symbiotic relationship that develops between the grower and the patient.
Yeah. And I think I'm a big believer is the energy that you put off goes into your medicine, right? So some of the best growers, some of the best medicine I've ever tried came from some people that have such beautiful energies to them.
Right.
And they took this beauty.
That's a really interesting way to look at that.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
It's really cool because I've witnessed it. I've been all around the world and seen different growers.
I haven't noticed that, but I haven't looked for that. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
But the personality and energy of the person that's actually producing the plant.
I believe it's in there, especially if you
I do
went
too.
in
With
there.
what I have seen, I think so too.
Yeah.
The plant certainly responds to its environment.
Totally.
And the way that it works with us, I mean, we respond to the plant because we have an endocannabinoid system and that sort of thing. Are you an expert on that at all?
Not a complete expert. I definitely,
understand.
I understand enough to talk about it to a point. I mean, I'm definitely not a doctor.
I don't know why I went there. We just sort of,
No. I know enough that I have a rough understanding, and my kind of approach to sort of medicinal cannabis, especially for serious ailment. Like I have a friend named Helga. She has a very rare type of brain cancer. She's been sick for almost 13 years and was on the operation list. Even I didn't tell her to go off her medication. I'm not a doctor, so I said, Helga, I'm not telling you anything, but I will make you some special candies. So I was making this special RSO for her to make into a candy for her, and that's how she wanted to take it. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, which one of my little things are going to work? Well, put everything you have, and I put almost 60 types of weed into this oil because I figured something in the toolbox will work for this.
I like overlapping cannabinoids myself.
Something must work. So, but she's been taking them for about 4 months now, and she was down 137 points on her cancer scale, and she's off the surgery list now,
right.
And she actually quit her cancer meds, which I didn't know.
Wow.
I kind of when she told me that.
Don't tell the pharmaceutical companies.
No,
Apparently
exactly. She gave me a heart attack. I was
scared.
like, "Are you? You told them it was me? Good. Tell them to come get me. I'm in the woods past the second tree."
Which kind of leads me to another thing I wanted to ask you about. And that is that you're a self-confessed actor and comedian to some degree.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Do you do cannabis humor? Is that part of where your humor is, or when you're doing stand-up or whatever?
I definitely talk about marijuana. Marijuana's been part of it. Have I ever done a straight cannabis show? I wouldn't say that, but I would say that cannabis is always a big part of my comedy and who I am. I mean, I did grow up.
So how do you fit? What do you say about it? What are some of the things that you use in your routine? Like,
well, I don't do routine.
There's some funny aspects to cannabis.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. Like, well, for example,
prohibition.
Well, we just wrote a comedy sitcom pilot set in here in Vancouver. It's called Roomies for Life. And cannabis was a big proponent to the show. And so, it was all fictitious characters. My character was an actor, bartender living in Vancouver who sold pot to survive. And the fact is, he had the, bad thing happen. He went and sold some gangsters, some bad moldy pot there. And it was, and then so they came after him, and they were like, "Well, you got this much time to get us, our money, and blah 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 blah." So he's trying to find a way to get the money back, and it was just sort
of familiar sounding plot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it's over the years of how it's worked to the West Coast and BC Bud, and sort of where it all came from during Prohibition, right? Was a very seedy world at times, and so playing with those themes in the show was a big lot of fun.
Do you poke fun at Prohibition?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've got a video on YouTube where you should have seen, there's a video I released on YouTube where it's basically a stand-up comedy pitch where I go over Bill C-45 and talk about some of the points
Talk about some of those points.
And I started freaking out on this thing, and I'm doing voices. I'm like, okay, so basically, so this penalty, if we sell the kids, but technically under the wording of this, we can use the children as drug mules. Yes. And that's a less of a prison sentence here. Okay, so if I sell you 30 grams of marijuana, oh crap, $250 ticket. If I sell you this much more marijuana, 14 years in prison and possibly, I can't remember the exact fine, but it was something like $5,000, $10,000, something stupid
ridiculous
like that.
Amount.
Yeah. Well, it's like, if you think about it, this much more weight. And in technicality, under the law, you could go to prison for 14 years.
Yeah.
Well, Bill C-45 is draconian law. It's a control system, right? Basically, an industry voted in for their dream that we've all been fighting for. Some of us for decades upon decades. Yeah. We thought, finally, we will get our time in the sun. We can come out of hiding. Hello, my family, I am a farmer. No. And they took it from us. They took it over. Yeah. And, anyone who could compete with them, which is the real growers who are not participating in what they're doing, they sell 31 grams of pot. A lot of growers do that. 14 years in prison? Well, we took care of him for the next 14, so who wants to take us on next, And
It's horrible what
It
they've
really
done.
is.
It's so obvious. I don't know how they get away with it. I mean, people are so complacent.
It is, you know? So
We've got us so conditioned here.
Well, we got to start speaking out, right? And that's for speaking out and educating. I mean, and that's a big part of what we do at my channel, too. Is just try to talk about stuff and let people be empowered through knowledge and not be afraid to know what their rights are and to know what really is going on, right? Because a lot of us, I think, aren't necessarily complacent per se even. We're afraid because we don't know. And
there's some reason to fear,
right?
You know, depending on what you have to lose.
Yeah.
And I don't recommend to people that have families and a lot to lose that they poke the bear.
Yeah.
You know, there's ways to do what we're doing to try to further our movement of looking for freedom,
right?
Without so much risk. Like a lot of people are in the background. A lot of growers wouldn't be on my show. We don't know who they are. They don't do YouTube videos, but they're producing and they're producing and they're producing, and we need all of that. But there's also where it's not something you need to be afraid of. Where if you don't have those kinds of things to lose, for example, to go and poke the bear and even get arrested.
Oh yeah.
Not that scary a thing, really.
No.
I mean, it's not fun to get arrested.
No.
It's not, But when you look, after you're done sitting on the concrete bench behind the bars, eating the stupid little bit of stuff they give you for food, and cheese and crackers, and you missed your family and a proper meal and all. I mean, it's not much fun when you're in there at that point. But it doesn't take too long. I mean, you don't spend much time in there. I mean, you get arrested because you put on a protest and you told a cop to fuck off or something happened and you got arrested. or they decided you're the one they're going to make an example of, and so they got you and your bag of weed, and you're going to get charged with that. So you might spend the night in jail, but then they have to let you out in the morning.
Exactly.
And then you probably have to go back to court. Well, that's going to maybe you miss a little bit of work time, so that's not good, but not necessarily. Who knows? But you get to go into court, and if you go in there and you find out that when you're telling the cop to fuck off, that you can stand there proudly and tell that cop to fuck off.
You have every legal right to tell him to fuck off.
You might get arrested for the night, but that's not such a bad thing. And in fact, you wear that like a bit of a badge when you got it for the right reasons. We know we're right. We know they're wrong. They're bullies. We're trying to stand up for sick people and poor people.
Totally, yeah.
So I find it very empowering is what I find.
I agree. I
had this conversation with Carly on my last show where she came here as a young, sort of wide-eyed, naive kind of person wanting to do something to help with the cause, and then ended up getting herself in handcuffs at the Cannabis Day fiasco in 2015, and how she felt about all that. But she did, looking back on it, it empowered her.
Oh, totally.
She came to realize that, well, that's not such a big threat. You spend some time in handcuffs, you spend some time in jail, and then you spend some time in court. But it's not something that you need to avoid at all costs. It's something that is worth going through if you can make your point, if you can stand up for what's right, if you're going to be somebody who doesn't just cower in the corners and gets up there. That's very empowering.
Exercising your constitutional rights, one of the most powerful things we have in this country is the Constitution and our constitutional rights.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us don't really understand them well. Heck, I probably don't have a perfect understanding of half of them. But at the end of the day, these are the best tools that we can use currently right now in our fight for this, because technically, at least on 5 or 6 counts, again, not a lawyer, but by my reading on it, Bill C-45 directly violates the Constitution. So, well, then...
But we have to get
into that courtroom to point that out. Like, hello, everybody, I'm sorry, thank you for here. We're technically here because, we sold Timmy 31 grams of pot here. But in actuality, can we talk about something here for a moment? What about the heck that this is the fact is, right? It's scary, but it is empowering. And I mean, at the end of the day, standing up for what you believe in is an empowering thing. I think for me, the first time I got caught for smoking pot by my parents as a kid, I was told marijuana was the devil. And this is for parents who told me the devil didn't exist as priests.
Oh.
They taught, they were Anglican. Many Anglicans believe that.
I know the Anglicans are more progressive. I don't know the actual dynamics of what they believe, and I didn't know they didn't believe in a devil.
Some don't. My parents never did. And if you're asking,
where are your parents now? I mean, are they?
My dad's here in Vancouver, actually.
Still an Anglican priest?
Yeah, he's at the church. His church is called the Church of the St. Mary Magdalene, actually.
I see.
How
are they on cannabis?
My dad's in full support. He actually owns 15% of my company.
Nice. The Anglicans are the first that will step forward and defend people's right to use cannabis and defend it as a plant in nature. Whereas some of the other religions, boy, I mean, they've demonized it. My grandmother, bless her heart, she passed away. She was 102.
Oh, wow.
When she was 100 years old, she was upset with me for my activism. And I said, but Grandma, go get your Bible. And it's on the first page of the Bible that God talks about the seed-bearing herbs and how they're very good and that they're for everybody. And she said to me that cannabis was not, or marijuana, was not a plant that God created. That was one of the devil's plants. I said, really? In all my years with you, I had never heard that. I was brought up in a right-wing Christian home.
Oh, totally.
Been to many, many sermons. I had never heard that the devil actually made some plants.
Exactly.
I'd heard it called the devil's weed before, but never really thought that they actually meant that.
Yeah.
But that's what she said. She got very flustered. She was not happy with me. I wanted to show her Exodus 30:23, where Moses gets the ingredients for the holy anointing oil. And she would have no part of it. And she was getting very, very flustered. And at 100 years old,
you don't want to push it too hard.
I didn't push it at all anymore. I never brought it up again. That was right around her birthday. I told her at her birthday party in front of everybody, and she was not a pot smoker. Lived her whole life against it like that.
Yeah.
But I said, Grandma, you're 100 years old. Now nobody can tell you can't smoke weed, can they?
What was her response?
How old you got to be? I said to her. Oh, she didn't want it. She didn't want it done. I'm not.
And it's funny talking about people who are like against pot and spent their whole lives being against pot. I actually have a lot of students now who were military officers or police officers or SWAT team officers who are struggling with a bunch of different things, and I'm helping them with their own medical growth, and it's weird. So I'm sitting here teaching them over video calls from Canada, and I'm like, 10 years ago, you would have tried to bust my ass.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you're my
beat
student.
you up.
Yes. Here's your gold star, good little weed plant. I'm very proud of you. You've come so far.
Yeah.
And it's just such a surreal experience. It's full circle now, and these people are more open-minded to it now.
Mark Emery's prosecutor ended up quitting his job and becoming an advocate for legalization.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's a lot of people turning their ideas around. They should. They should get on the right side of history here at this point.
Exactly.
We've been lied to for a long time,
totally.
People need to understand that. And then once you realize you've been lied to, then you get a little pissed off about that. Become maybe an advocate for the other side. And so there's a lot of that going on as well.
Queen Elizabeth I herself was known to use a cannabis indica tincture.
Back to the royalty, are we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not backing her, but I'm just saying even they like to get high.
Of course they do. Why do you think they get called your Royal Highness?
I'm so high.
Of course they're so high. And these are the pleasures of the elite.
Yes.
The things that are forbidden for the serfs are the pleasures of the elite.
Well, exactly.
That's what they do to feel that they're above everybody else. So, fuck them.
Well, exactly.
I've swore a lot on my... Barbie, if you're watching, I'm sorry. I don't usually swear so much. I got an aunt that watches me, and she's a right-wing Protestant Christian woman as well, and well-meaning in it all.
Oh, sure.
But, there's a time to swear, and I don't think I'm going to go to hell for it and all the rest of it.
Well, exactly.
Not trying to offend anybody, but, the religion has not been the friend of freedom.
It hasn't been,
forever. And I don't think it's based in a lot of reality myself personally.
Oh yeah, and especially the institution that's been built around it has been, in many places, in many parts of it, has been a really disgusting, horrible
It's been seized upon by greedy, unethical people that are willing to manipulate people's fears for their own benefit.
Oh yeah.
And that's been for sure for a long time. Some very serious atrocities have happened in the name of of our God being better than your God. Most of the wars that were fought throughout history was one God against another God, and
try going through some of those old cathedrals over in Europe. I don't know. I'm pretty sensitive stuff going in there. You could almost taste all the horrible things over years where Spanish Inquisition happened and all these other things that were going on.
Well, you read the Old Testament, where God, his instructions for the non-believers was to wipe them out.
How is that love? I thought, I was raised that God was love. I may not believe in God, but I was raised that
God
was
love. I also thought all humans were children of God.
Well, exactly, because other parts say that. So it's this does not seem to make sense. It's conflicting, guys.
Well, that's where faith comes in. You have to have faith because it really doesn't make any sense. If you think about it to any length, it won't make any sense. So you just have to have faith. Okay, somehow God
can have faith.
Somehow God can make that okay. I'm not sure how, but He said so that's good enough.
Well, exactly. Right?
And it's caused us a lot of problems. Blind faith in religion and people who think that they're more righteous than other people. And
well, that's my big issue, right? Because at the end of the day, I don't care what people believe. But if you want to be a religious person, go ahead. As long as you treat people well and you're a good part of society and community, I will respect and defend your right to do so and your beliefs. That's
Exactly.
completely fine with me. I'm not going to believe it. I might quietly, with my other friends who don't believe in God, make fun of all of you a little bit, but with love. I'll do it
you
it's-
deserve the same respect from that person
Make
with
fun-
what you do and don't believe.
And you can make fun of me too for
Yeah.
disbelieving in God. Like, he's gonna go to hell. He's gonna get there. He's gonna be sold. He's gonna be like, oh man, I wish I thought the other way, man. Like, you know,
We are all
go ahead.
silly creatures with great potential to be misled and all kinds of stuff. So let's all just understand that about ourselves. Let's realize that we're just as susceptible as the next guy,
Exactly.
and let's just respect each other's beliefs about things,
Yeah.
because who knows, you know.
We've all
and
got
I know I
our-
say that having not respected. But I respect.
We're all learning,
I
right?
respect people's right to believe it.
Totally.
You know, and like you say, as long as it doesn't mean that they're hurting somebody else, you can believe whatever you want.
Totally.
And you might be right for all I know. I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows? There's some things I'm pretty sure aren't
too.
right within religion. But I'll tell you, the more I look into quantum physics and all of that stuff, the less I'm sure that there's not something more powerful behind all of this. I don't know.
It's hard to say how it all works. All I'll say
Not
is
sure
I'm
it's-
intrigued by it all. It's very cool.
Very
All the
intrigued
stuff
by it
we're
all.
starting to figure out too. You
I
know?
got some serious questions about how the astronomers are pointing. They say that we are in the center of the known universe because we can only see so far.
So yeah,
apparently.
exactly so.
But everything is the same distance away from us, no matter which way we look. And if there was a big bang that went boom and everything's traveling fast, by
Yeah.
the way, wouldn't we all be traveling fast away from where that big bang happened? And wouldn't there be like things like, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. The more I think about it, the less sense it's making to me. I'm not sure about these things anymore. And I thought I was 15 years ago. I thought I had a pretty good handle on physics and you know, the atomic realities. But now with these quantum realities, it's like, wow, there's some real weirdness going on here.
Well, and a lot of you know, and some of the cool ideas that are kind of coming out, just sort of into the multi-dimensional nature of everything and all these kinds of
Yeah,
things.
they say 11 dimensions,
Yeah.
and there has to be for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I remember the first time I read a book on it. I was probably about 15, sitting in the park as you snuck out of the house to smoke a big fat joint. It's like, oh man, this is so intense, man.
Yeah, it is very intense. I watch updates every night, pretty much,
Awesome.
on what NASA is putting out and what other interpreters of what NASA puts out are putting out from what we're learning from the telescopes that are up there and the different
It's fun.
stuff.
I enjoy it.
It is amazing, but I don't think I have a good handle on much of it anymore. And it could all just as easily be that this is from something for something, and that makes probably more sense than it being from nothing for nothing. But what even all that means over the vastness of time and space, who knows? I don't know. I'm just having as much fun as I can. That's all, and you know, living my flow.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
Enjoying the spin on the planet, right? Just hanging out.
So what's next for you? What do you do from here? You gonna just keep putting out YouTube videos and doing some comedy and acting and stuff?
Yeah, well,
and-
I mean, this year basically we're trying to get another TV show actually started. It's called
Right.
Strange Pots Unknown with the Potsquatch. So it's
see.
kind of an Anthony Bourdain style show, but it's cannabis culture and around the world. So,
Nice.
you know, I'd love to shoot a show like that where I'm the host, kind of going around and experiencing that kind of a show. That's one thing we've got possibly in the works. We're working on seeing if that's a potential there.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah, one of the dreams of our company is to expand further into other agricultural tech. So basically, we want to become one-stop shop for everyone to have.
You're not going for a
place to-
government license at this point.
No. I got priced out of that market pretty quick. So I decided, take this, corporations. I'll teach everyone to grow their own pot for free, and I'll sell them the equipment.
There you go.
That was kind of my response, because originally I wanted to go craft LP. I was going to try to do that.
Yeah, it sounded like a thing.
It
people
sounded
would,
great.
but you know, then came these regulations and these costs and these license
it was going to
fees.
cost well over $500,000 for me to try to do anything, and I was like, oh my
Level
God.
5 security, and then weed you don't really want to be associated with because you have to either chemically spray it or irradiate it.
Yeah.
No, so
No,
good
it
on
was-
you for resisting. We all have to, as you know, the other side of the illegal market, we have to recreate ourselves, and we're going to do that. Yeah. And they're going to have an even worse black market to contend with. It'll compete even better with what they got if they're not going to let us in.
Yeah.
It just is what it is.
And at the end of the day, and if people are ever concerned, even if a lot of the growers, teach yourself, educate yourself, become self-sustaining, teach yourself to grow, and it's fun.
And don't just grow 4 plants.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of grow your 4.
Oh,
grow your 4 plus more is what I say.
Yeah.
You weren't allowed to grow any before, and we all did. So why would we limit it to 4 now?
Technically, the law right now, and the way it's worded, is it's for flowering plants.
For flowering plants.
We're technically allowed as many vegetating plants technically as we want. It's not what they meant to write, but it is technically how it's worded right now.
Yeah. Just do what you think is right. Overgrow the government. Stand up against bad laws. And, love one another. Have as much fun as you can loving one another.
Have a laugh, stand together. We will change the world if we decide to all show up together one day, right?
I very much appreciate what you've been doing and what you are doing, and for coming on the show and telling us about it. Helping to educate people about how to get things going. It's a very important task that you've taken there, and I like the way that you do it. Having some fun with it and some humor with it. That's all about me. I like that. I'm not funny like you, but well, to look at.
You're making me laugh.
To look at, I'm getting funnier to look at all the time. But I believe in it, and I try. They call it old man humor for a good reason. So, it's a little bit lame. But Greg Williams was a guest, and he told me how his brain works. He turns everything into the funny. Yeah. And he does. He's great at doing that. And I try to do that too, but mine's just a lot lamer than his. That's all.
Well, like some people call the BBC lame. No, it's just a different type of humor, and I love the BBC.
Well, and for me, I'm just looking for a gem, and it takes a little while to get there. So you get a dozen or so lame comments, and then one of them I hit on or something. So,
like for me, I just go on a riff tangent. I grew up the son of 2 preachers, right? So
that's funny in itself.
Talking hot air out my mouth. My goodness, I've seen this before. Sorry for those out there offended. No,
you come by it honestly. For sure. Well, keep on keeping on, man, and we'll check in with you later on and see how you're doing. Thank you so much
Thanks for having me on the show, man. Really
very happy to have you.
We got really nice bud for our lineup here at Cannabis Substitution Project. Looks absolutely fabulous. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. And what brings you to our Cannabis Substitution Project?
I come here because number one, to be honest with you, I like to socialize with the people that come to the east side.
Yeah.
Right? And they come here and minglize, like Grace, right?
Yeah.
And the other people come in. And number two, if I don't have money and shit, it gets me off the opioids, it gets me off the alcohol.
Oh, that is so fabulous.
Right,
that is our project, to get you off the opiates and get you off the alcohol. And cannabis, how does it help you out?
Well, I use it for many therapeutic reasons. I have a minor depression, so I use it for that. I also take advantage of the Magnuson here for helping me on some days that I don't have money or
oh, that is so nice. Oh, that's
stuff
excellent.
like that. They have pod, they have a lot of trees, and I'm very grateful for it.
Thank you so
Whoever
much.
does this, what's it called? TPS?
Cannabis Substitution Project.
Correct. You know what? God bless you guys. You guys are doing great.
You guys
Thank
rock.
you. Oh, thank you. What I would like to ask you is, how does cannabis help you out?
Before I even smoke it, just to know that I have it. It's a great sense of security, because I do crack cocaine. It's kind of noisy. Anyhow, I do other hard drugs, and knowing that I have weed for afterwards gives me a sense of security, comfort, satisfaction. And in the process of smoking it, it just calms me, makes you feel better, takes the edge off the anxious feeling you get in your belly. And it's just a great thing. I just love weed.
Thank you very much. And they're infused.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I'll have the same.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're very welcome, sir. Thank you very much. Beautiful.
So, how does cannabis help you out?
Well, cannabis helps me out because I have really bad depression. I have insomnia. I also deal with pain. So I broke my pelvis in my hip in 2010 from a bobcat accident. So I use cannabis to help me with my pain and stuff because I think it's way better than the chemicals that doctors give you, like
Prescriptions.
they give you morphine, they give you Dilaudid and things like that, and I think it wears down your bones. But cannabis, people always say it's bad for you, but it's really not bad for you because it really helps you and it's healthy for the body and you're not putting so much chemicals in your body because you know what you're taking, right?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thank you.
Cheers. Morning, guys.
Raspberry. That's you.
Sorry. There you go, dear. You're very welcome. Very welcome.
Hi, how are you today? And what brings you in the rain to our Cannabis Substitution Project?
Marijuana.
And what does cannabis do for you?
Well, I was diagnosed with my right shoulder. Is like somebody hammered me with a blunt object, and it's completely separated. So I need painkillers.
And you prefer cannabis than the pharmaceutical route?
Well, pharmaceutical route is full of codeine, and it makes your head itchy.
Okay, so you
It
don't
does.
like the side effects
Well,
from
no,
that.
it makes
These are good. And that ginger snap cookie's pretty good too, so.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm good.
And what brings you to Cannabis Substitution Project?
Well, I come to enjoy some edibles.
Okay, and how does the edibles help you?
Well, I have cancer in my brain, and I need that. I use it.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. So, do you get the CBD ones?
I get both.
Oh, good. Good, the one with both. So you get a buzz and the
Yeah.
CBD.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to when they have more cream available because that really helps me.
Yeah, you certainly can. Sorry I didn't pick up on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How are you today?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm doing good. My name's Debbie.
Nice to meet you, Debbie. My name's Cliff.
Nice to meet you. And what brings you to our cannabis lineup?
Oh, I heard about it through word of mouth that this is being given out freely of heart and thought I'd join the lineup. But
Okay.
I know there's cannabis that they're giving out and edibles that help us with healing, with CBD as well.
Yes.
Capsules, and it's such a positive thing that everybody's sharing, and there's new faces all the time, and
Thank you.
chance to meet people as well.
Oh, thank you.
Just like that.
And how does the cannabis help you?
It helps me relax.
Helps you relax?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mostly in sleeping.
And sleeping?
Yeah.
Sleeping's so important.
Yeah, exactly. There's one that calls it the snooze bomb, and it's a love bomb that knocks me right out nicely.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Is that
a gummy or is
That's a weed It's a jelly bomb right there.
Yeah.
And that's a
It's
weed
squares,
cookie
like, it
right
looks
there.
like a piece of
This
Lego.
is CBD, this is THC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your
No problem, you're welcome.
Hi, how are you today?
Fine, thank you.
And what brings you to Cannabis Substitution lineup this beautiful Sunday?
Well, it's always good. It's if anything that's good to smoke is marijuana, and the edibles more healthier. It's safer. I don't really know drinking, no cigarette, just cannabis smoking and edibles.
Oh, well, that's good. And how does it?
The edibles help my pain. I don't have to run to any prescriptions like I used to.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't have to run to the alcohol to cover the prescription. The point is, anything cannabis does the job.
Oh, that's so
Come here
beautiful.
Sundays and Thursdays, it's free, and enjoy the crowd. You get to meet people, you get tips. You get tips on cannabis, anything cannabis. Anything on the edibles that we don't know about, we can come here or ask around the internet. The point is, we're on the right track, and I enjoy it.
Oh, good.
Another epic day at Vandu with the CSP. We're right at the 3-year mark coming up. For another week or so from now, it'll be 3 years since I started giving out high-dose edibles to people at Vandu. I want to give a shout out to Chris Backer in Halifax there. He's got the East Coast Cannabis Substitution Project chapter going on over there. And all the best to Chris and the people that are helping him out in doing what we're doing here, and all the other people across Canada. In Victoria, they've got a CSP running there that is superior to what we do here in Vancouver. They're open 5 or 6 days a week, and they're helping about 1,000 people a day. So very happy that all that is going on. It remains completely funded by donations and operated by volunteers on all aspects of the CSP. And it's a beautiful testament to the cannabis community and how we're trying to help with this overdose opioid crisis that's happening here. One of the things that we've been able to do in the years past, and we're going to do again this year, is give out seeds to people with the CSP so that they can help grow for themselves. And a shout out to Sweetleaf, who sent us a bunch of seeds to give out to people. It's a very nice donation for that, feminized seeds as well. So that's really awesome. We also have the seeds that we got from the BC Bud Depot a couple of weeks ago on the show, along with the Willamo, that we're going to give out in some sort of a prize to somebody somehow. Probably has to be through the chat. Not really sure how we're going to do that. But hang on for that information coming up. One day, not too far down the road, we're going to give that stuff away because it's about the right time coming up to get seeds in the ground. So that's it for the CSP update. Thanks so much to all the volunteers and donators that help make that a reality, and for everybody else that supports us. And what you can do for us is to contact your local media or politicians and tell them about the success of the CSP and ask for medical dispensaries back so that people can have proper access to cannabis to help with their addictions and other things. And we are in need of more flower. Our two main flower donators have had to drop off, and so we are short of trim or shake or bud or whatever type of cannabis flower that might be available to us. So if you want to help us, that's one of the ways you can help us. Contact me and I'll make those arrangements. Coming events, we do have the protest at Hetty Fry's office at 1030 Denman coming up on February 14th. The Victoria Buyers Club is orchestrating these protests at ministers' offices, where we're also demanding proper access to cannabis through storefront dispensaries. So come and support that, and bring some stuff if you can, some donuts or some hot coffees or whatever. If you're able to do that, that would be awesome. Help the people out that do show up to protest. And of course, the one event that's coming up, there you go, that we're really happy about, that's coming really fast, is 420. And I'm sure there's a 420 event somewhere near you, and if not, have your own. It's 420 everywhere when it's 420. And you can get booths at Vancouver's 420 starting on February 15th. They go for sale. And we're looking forward to another banner, epic year of entertaining the city of Vancouver with our 420 event. So that's coming up. I want to thank Pot TV for letting me use the studio here, and we have some other shows that happen on Pot TV. Tomorrow we've got From Under the Influence with Greg Williams, the longest running show on Pot TV. It's over 20 years that Greg's been doing his show all the time, and it's a great way to get your information and to look at the humorous sides of prohibition and find out all the things that are pertinent in the world of cannabis. He's the expert that knows all those things. On Friday, it's Cannabis Culture News Live with Jeremiah Vandermeer and his co-hosts. And that's always a good way to get up to date on what's happening. He covers all the current events going on in the cannabis world, even though there's not too many of them these days. I'm sure he's got a lot and enough there to fill a show, and it's always entertaining. And high noon on Saturday, 12 o'clock with Boss Lissa and her co-hosts there, having as much fun as they can with cannabis. On Monday, it's the 420 Lifestyle Show with Carly Marley and BC Bud Gal, and that is the most fun you can have on a show. I've seen that a few times. I couldn't even compete with the amount of fun. They have like all kinds of like sparklers and edibles and the colors and all this kind of stuff going on. I really envy kind of how they end up doing their show with so much fun, and that's what it's all about, is showing people how much fun they can have with cannabis, and that's the 420 Lifestyle Show. And Tuesdays, it's a THC show with me, your host, Neil Magnuson, and I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank my guests, Glenn from CannaMatch.ca, Jerry Martin, and of course Potsquatch for coming on and helping us learn all about the different techniques of growing and how to produce your own medicine. And other than that, Anil, my producer, I want to thank him a lot for making this work, and to all of you again for watching. Just have as much fun as you can. All right, welcome to the THC show with Neil, where we talk about the unpleasant truths of our system and our democracy here.
I help patients
I got
I know what you're saying.
I got rated for growing, and I'm staring at the cracks in the wall doing time, and I'm trying to figure out who I hurt. No victim, no crime.
And we look for avenues of hope and ways that we can change some things. As you can see, there's a lot of people and there's a lot of care packs that we're handing out there. I am not a criminal.
Wow, look at this.
Right,
Hey,
here we go.
it's 420 for sure now. Got you.
And I'll be back next Tuesday for another episode of THC, Truth, Hope, and Change. Go about changing the world as best you can, and while you're doing it, just have as much fun as you can. Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
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 Hi. It's high noon here in the studio.
Look at it. Look at the bud.
Right there. And it was just like so many people, and I was like, whoa, this is amazing. I was like, I have to cross it.
Acronyms, baby.
I love
So
how
you paid
they're
$8
like,
for half a pencil.
I love.
just put it out there.
Are we still banned on YouTube? I'm Marijuana Man. Welcome to From Under the Influence. If they had weed, guaranteed they would make money. That's the only conclusion I can come to, is they don't have any weed. Because people are still going to buy it, for God's sakes. People actually like weed and want to buy weed. And a huge number of people have no choice but to come and buy it from you. And still, you can't make money? Holy fuck. Now what? What are you going to do to us now? When I was even at a very young age, go, wow, like, why would this be illegal? It is so much fun.
Outlawing laughter and feeling good.
Yeah,
What?
laughing. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Peace. And pod.
Hi there, welcome to the 420 Lifestyle Show. I'm Carly Marley. She's taking a dab. Thanks.
We can play the Sick Moose video.
Oh yes, Sick and Moose video. Let's play the Sick and Moose video.